That means they turned it off now. Check. Use my phone, please. I don't know what your problem is. I don't know what problem is. Can you use my
This is your phone. That's it. You want to move?
check, check.
Don't worry, I'm sorry.
Have you set it? Are you sure?
You just connect.
What?
You're right. And 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 don't
Should I?
don't end though. Just like
Hold on. These are the guys. I'm not already. So we have mental health issues. We don't bother about safety, but once you have this pain, you go see the other physician. The mental illness is personal failure, or it's being characterized as just being stubborn. No, that is not what it is entirely. That's the next slide. So, what can we do to improve our mental health? For some few things and so rest. Self-care, make self-care a priority. Now, please, love your people as you want. If you don't know how you love yourself, and the rest of your people, not how much time. If you're not taking yourself out, you cannot take somebody out. Love your people as you love yourself. Make self-care a priority. Without your own place procedure. Get quality sleep. Sleep well. After complete. Sleep well. Cut down on your substance use. Some people take vodka, bullets that has vodka in it. And you drink coffee, they now down the outside. We wait for you. Move and nourish your body. Do exercise. Do exercise. Exercise. If you are scared that you forgot the one way I showed you, get this program now that you know, Facebook or Instagram everywhere. Get it. Do exercise. Do sports. Go on the table that sports. Do exercise. Do something. Make sure exercise. It's not about it's weight loss. It's about fitness. Don't food health. Now for those who use substances, at some point last year, I started taking coffee more. Because I was taking coffee more than necessary. I was taking it in 1 week, 2 weeks. And I met my colleague who's clinical psychologist. That's why I'm serious. I want to talk with you. I'm giving what do you call it? Coffee loss. I need therapy. And she just reached out serious. Listen, reached out serious. She said, sit down. She said, you tell me, you check up your shit. That's about the exercising habits. And it was almost zero. So once you exercise, the body releases dopamine. And once you release dopamine, once the substance you're looking for is not dopamine, once the body releases dopamine, the amount of dopamine you need from the substance will come down. That was it. I still use coffee, but my amount of is reducing. I didn't try to fix that thing, skip that twist. There's no routine. Plan yourself. The night before you sleep, plan your next day step. Some of us are so disorganized that that meditation can resolve the kind of problems. Before you sleep, get the signal or the short journal. Write down the list you want to do for the next week. Practice gratitude. That is one key to also have inspiration. Appreciate on me, appreciate God. We are not saying now, this let's get this clear. Telling someone who is already depressed to be grateful and appreciate God. It's as good as telling someone who has been only to us. Not just be self-fully, not just listening, because it's someone's last one. It's really listening to the it's in a good mental state. And when they are not overwhelmed by stress, fear, or rumination. Rumination means we keep pondering over the same thing over and over and over again. Get a journal. These days, even our phones have notes. We don't use them. If I do a survey here, it's only 1 or 2 persons write things in their notes or their phones. It's the essence. Journal. Write down things you want to do, so you can clear your head. Because disorganized thoughts will lead to disorganized speech. Will also lead to disorganized behavior. And when we see disorganized thoughts from your speech and behavior, the easiest diagnosis to make is schizophrenia. And that's the worst type of mental illness. So we create space for clarity to emerge. Now the next slide, please. So let's not forget that next slide. That let's reflect more on this. That thriving in the thriving we have high performance, and we are not always on this thriving. So depending on the stress we encounter daily, we move from one place to the other. But what we try as much as possible to do is to ensure that we don't get to the unwell zone. And if we get to the unwell zone, like I was struggling with substance because of the amount of work I had to do. I was working on my proposal, so I had to stay away from the night. So I got to the struggling zone. I had to seek for help before they would call my colleagues to sedate me and struggle me and tie me down and inject me. I didn't want to get to that point. And what was it? Just because I had projects to do. I had my thesis to complete. I didn't want to. I know that if I continue like that, I'll get to that point. I'll take the whole thing of talking. I'll stay up in 5 minutes, and you know what can happen. So let's have this at the back of our mind that medium performance. So we oscillate between medium performance and high performance. We don't want to get to the low performance level. Next slide. Next slide, please. Right. So next slide. All right, so seek professional help. Mental health is the most important health. Mental health. Seek it, seek help. You don't have to be in crisis to get help, right? Mental being struggling is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is also not a sign of weakness. It shows strength. It shows that you know your flaws, you know your weaknesses, and you know what to do. Shame is social, it's not scientific. What you determine, what you say is shameful, is what becomes shameful to you. Do you understand? Shame is relevant, is relative, depending on society. What we call being ashamed depends on the society where you find yourself. It depends on also time and generation. So just because something is unseen does not mean it is unreal or unimportant. We cannot see the mind. So, like I said, the mind is the most important organ. But we cannot locate where the mind is exactly. We cannot say it's in the brain. If some people tell you the mind is here, some people tell you the mind is here. But wherever your mind is, just know that it controls every other organ. So every day, millions of people across the world, they seek therapy. Seek therapy. Now, some people, some of, especially church folks, like I'm attacking, I'm not attacking you, I'm just trying to correct you. Advising somebody is not therapy. Keep your advice to yourself. You're not interested. Therapy is scientific. It's learned. You will learn it through the books. You will also learn it by apprenticeship. You stay with someone who has developed the art of therapy or conducting therapy over time. That a pastor does not make you a therapist. And a pastor's wife does not make you a marriage counselor. You can even finish writing your husband. You're going to tell somebody how to keep their house. Sorry if you're a pastor's wife. Next slide. All right, so in conclusion, everyone has everyone has a mental, not everyone who has a mental illness. Not everyone will have mental illness, but we all have mental health, right? Just like physical health. We owe it for ourselves to manage our stress, not becoming overwhelmed by situations and everyday anxiety. You owe yourself that much. You owe yourself that much. Instead of coping maladaptively, seek help. Acknowledge with your shortcomings. Be open about it. And we'll try the world. Thank you very much.
Please one more time, Dr. Jackson. Thank you very much for education and love for enlightenment. And I want us to do a very quick exercise because Mr. Dr. Jack talked about exercising so that we can reduce the level of information. So please can you stand? Please, very sorry, can we understand? So everybody, please can you just raise your two hands to the heavens? Just raise your two hands to the heavens. Don't worship God yet, don't worship God. Can you bring your hands forward? Everybody, yes, everybody. Your hands to the side, back up, to the side, forward, up, side, backward, up. Please sit down. Put your hands together for yourselves. So, one of the most important things I'm looking for what Dr. Jack said is that mental health is very, very important. And there's something that's using here, and I wanted to say it again. Mental health is what? I can't hear you. Mental health is what? Mental health is what? So as you take care of yourself physically, ensure that you also take care of your mind. And now to the next session is the senior registrar in youth psychologist at UKTH, psychiatry story. Join me as I will welcome Dr. Wardrobe, who's a wonderful person.
Okay. No. But there's nothing to see it. It's because they're not using it. Not sure. What's the name?
Doing the guest presentation on the topic understanding.
I feel like it's still.
But also on site, fast forward.
world are doctors. See, when Dr. Jack told me to sleep well, he told his three doctors to don't sleep well. Telling you, because by the time we begin to sleep well, patients will begin to suffer. So we stay awake, reading and reading and reading and reading. But for the past 3 nights, I've not had a good sleep, preparing for this topic, trying to condense it to something like that. Okay, so quickly, understanding somatization disorder is the topic. It's a mouthful, isn't it? Somatization disorder. Okay. I want you to know that the word soma may not be English. It simply means body, your body. Okay? So when you say somatization, you are saying something happening to the body. Okay? Something unpleasant. That's the disorder. All right? Happening to the body. But this topic is important because what is happening to the body, you can't really tell what it is. You can't tell what it is. Have you ever gone to a hospital with genuine complaints and after spending a month doing investigations and doctors examining you and telling every doctor you meet about how the problem started, what you have done, the suffering you're going through, and they could not tell you what the problem is. You're taking medications and all that, and the problem still continues. Popularly, pastors will say it's a spiritual problem. That's what we are going to talk about today. We are going to put some science behind the spiritual problem and see how we can less spiritualize it and bring peace to the troubled mind. All right, so next slide, please. We are going to do this using this topic, outline, introduction, and to make it more interesting and less demanding, because this topic, even for medical professionals, can be quite disturbing. A lot of jargons, a lot of abstract things, and then at the end of the day, the moment you leave here, everything just flies out of the head. So I'm going to tell a story, okay? And from that story, you can find a bearing and find aspects, perhaps, and make sense of the overall concept. Okay, following that, we now look at the main issue, the short definition and overview, cutting hard, and then we will look at similar conditions that look like the subject matter. Then we look at the diagnosis, how we end up saying this is what it is. And then we look at some of the causes of this, look at the risk factors, some of the things that may predispose someone to developing this condition. And then we look at how it affects us on a daily basis, especially those who suffer from it and those who have people who suffer with the condition. Then we look at the treatment approaches. Don't worry, the treatment approach is not going to make you a doctor or a professional, just to give you headings on how a doctor will want to approach the problem. Then we will conclude just about two exercises. Most of the talking I will do without reading so much from the slides. So, are we settled? Okay. Take a deep breath, please. Oh, yeah, that's great. Now you can see that brain, and you can see that man, just muscles, and a few living covering the gluteal, thoughts, spiritual, and all that. You can see it's connected to the brain. Yes, it's the brain is the seat of most. In fact, it's the most important organ, like Dr. Jack has said. It's the most important. It governs and controls a lot of things about us. In fact, if one of your kidneys is bad, or you broke a leg, or broken arm, or whatever, you can manage the other one, isn't it? But if the brain goes bad, everything falls apart. Everything falls apart. You are who you are because of your mind. And your mind is somewhere in your skull. And embedded in that organ, you can see exposed there That's where your mind is. You know, where the symbol for love came from? It was from a false assumption that we think and feel from our chest. Something there, that organ is called the heart. All right? That was the initial assumption, and it caught fire. The poets and the writers now formulated that image you see and all that. And in fact, they argue that little baby angels can arrow or cupid shooting directly into you. And they say that's how we fall into love. Actually, nothing happens here. Just one muscle, like a small pump. Just pumping red light, pumping red light, pumping red light. And when it goes higher, it doesn't mean it's taking its toll. It means here, you're thinking, okay, that other guy is the one who is thinking. That other guy himself decides who to love, who to hate. That other guy decides whether to come here or not to come here. That other guy is the one paying attention to what I'm saying. That other guy is the one that made the decision on the clothes you wore and the haircuts you have. That guy over there, everything. And that guy too makes some people wear yellow vest to his program. So that is a very important guy. Now sometimes something can go wrong. The arms are complete, the body is healthy, everything is working well. But that guy begins to misfire and begins to generate symptoms, feelings, experiences that are felt genuinely. You feel pains at your back, feel pains in your stomach, your period becomes dysregulated, and you begin to bleed, and doctors check and check and check, they cannot find anything. Not because there's something wrong in your womb, because this guy just somehow malfunction, started generating missing signals randomly and posting them to different parts of the body. So the mind can generate and can regulate how you feel in every other part of the body. I want us to know that at the back of our mind. Yes. Next slide, please. So let's look at the case. I hope it's not too tiny for you to see. Okay. All right, that's fantastic. So I'll read slowly, and I want you to read along too in your mind. In your mind. Then we'll discuss this situation. And by the time we are done discussing it, we are done halfway through the presentations. Now we'll call you next. Okay? So it says Mrs. S.P. is an abbreviation for the name of the real person. She's 32-year-old mother of 3 children. I consulted her general practitioner, also called GP, at least once every 2 weeks for the past year. That is a total of how many times? 114 times in a year. Okay? 114 times. Every week, she sees a doctor at least times. Wow. Achieving had known her for only a year since she moved to the area after an acrimonious divorce. Her medical history, part of which was obtained from her previous general practitioner, was substantial, meaning the folder was big, the information was meaningful. You know, overseas they use the electronic record system. So this man would have generated so much in the computers that printing them on paper, there's just a ring on paper, so you probably just copy it on a hard drive or a thumb drive and send that to the new doctor. So, and her health difficulties had precluded her from employment, which means that already happened in her life. She has lost her marriage, she has lost her job. And menarche is that time when the woman first saw her period. My current ladies, yeah. So when she was diagnosed with dysfunctional uterine dysmenorrhea, meaning that the moment the time came for her to be a woman like her father used to say, she started having some kind of bleeding that was not usual. Instead of it bleeding to end when bleedings are supposed to end, hers will not. It will come at any time. It will flow harder than it's supposed to. That was her problem. And then she had this pain that was more than the usual pain women are supposed to experience when they are having their period. Hers was out of this world. It was enough to make them take her to the hospital several times. It was enough to make doctors launch investigation. It was enough for them to give her medications. Yet, it didn't go away. It continued. All right, so extensive investigations, including 3 exploratory laparoscopies. Now, when we want to ensure that the tummy looks nice and the body is not distorted so much, we avoid using a knife. We just take a small passing tube with a catheter, connect it to a big string like this, and then we manipulate that tube to move around the body. We see everything we want to see in the body. And then the tube too can empower it to have a nice small knife, not a big one. And then we cut off whatever we want to cut off. We still use the same tube and suck it out. And at the end of the day, the person gets up on the theater table and leaves it like the same way. And when you check, it still looks beautiful. It still looks nice. You never tell the doctor anything else. So she has had that intervention 3 times already. 3 times already. And then it revealed no physical cause for persistent upper abdominal pain with alternating diarrhea and constipation. So the problem has moved from bleeding without cause, pain for no reason, to pains in the abdomen, okay? And diarrhea, and then constipation. She goes to the toilet, she sits down there, she just pushes real hard, nothing comes out. And at other times, for no reason, without eating anything detrimental, she begins to just go to the toilet often, passing wateries too. So investigations were made and nothing was seen. 3 years ago, Mrs. S presented with urinary frequency and dysuria. More problems, more problems. Like her village people were not resting. So she started having frequent urination. As we were seated here, if she were here, she would have gone to visit the toilet, okay, or the restroom, like 3 to 4 times. Go there, just a little urine, she comes back. Next time she feels it or she goes there, just a little urine, she comes back. And then at other times, she begins to feel pains when passing that urine. I can already see the faces of some ladies tightening up. They feel bad already. Okay? Yes. It's a true life story. Someone actually went through all this, and some people are actually going through something similar. And then following these exhaustive investigations, including cystoscopy, another tube passed into the urinary bladder, urodynamic studies, another fancy study again being done, all testimony of course, and radiography, X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, and all that were all done. And they were all what? Normal. Did you see normal there? Did you see normal there? At this point, many of us would have gone to see like 30 pastors. Some laying legs, others laying hands, others laying head, some wearing their suit, some asking you to sit on their chair, some asking you to come and cook for 1 week in the house, walk the floor, do this, others saying, move it to the church, sleep for a month, others saying, my coconuts, bring it, lay hands on the coconut, make pronunciations, and so forth and so on. Mind me, I'm not I'm a Christian. But see, I like pastors. And I just wish that more doctors will be pastors so that church members can benefit from. Because some of these things we hear and see. Yeah. Okay? So it's not like my friend, Pastor Jack, and the friend of Pastor. Okay. So, where were we? Telling these things. No. Okay. She has also been referred to various specialists, including a rheumatologist. Rheumatologists are specialist doctors who are particularly specialized in taking care of autoimmune conditions, okay? Pains resulting from the different conditions resulting from the autoimmune conditions are conditions where the body begins to perceive itself as the enemy. So the cells of the body that are supposed to protect you from external enemies somehow begin to misidentify other cells of the body as the enemy and launch a full-scale war, internal war in the body, and start damaging things up and down, up and down, up and down. It's one of the most difficult conditions to diagnose because before it's identified, so many times a lot of damage has happened. So she saw this person experiencing all the problems coming up in different parts of the body. And then, okay, so including the rheumatologist, we came to chronic neck pain, which she described as a pain that ruined mine and my kids' lives. Okay, so she was also having pains on her neck. And judging the nature of all her problems, the pressure to see a rheumatologist. Then again, physical examination and investigations revealed no abnormalities. Mrs. SD was taking up to 30 codeine tablets daily and could not sleep without two different types of sleeping tablets. Codeine pills are some of the strongest pain pills or painkillers in the world. They are reserved for when everything else are able, because they are powerful and they are addictive, meaning that if you take it more than the doctor said you should take it, or for longer than they said you should take it, you become an addict. You begin to need more and more and more, and stopping it becomes a problem. I remember managing a very well millionaire who had cancer, and following repeated surgery for the cancer, he was placed on morphine. And somehow the anesthetist placed him on morphine. He continued it until he became addicted to it and was demanding it. And of course, he would collect plenty money and give him medication until at the point he traveled and couldn't access the substance and went into withdrawal. And that was when I came. So I realized that he had an addiction problem, and he found a way around it. He got better. Fortunately, the cancer eventually took his life. So this lady was taking about 10 tablets of codeine. She's already having an addiction problem. And then to sleep, she needs to combine two different sleeping pills in order for her to get this free sleep that God gives to Nigerians, despite what their government is to give them. All right, so that was an interesting story, isn't it? Interesting one. That one qualifies unmistakably for spiritual growth. Unmistakably. All right, so if you look at the lady's face, you can see that she's been through a lot, isn't it? Yes. And if you look at the doctor, you can see that the doctor is doing everything he can to calm her down and let her know that the body has not come to an end. Next slide, please. So what is somatization disorder? Well, first of all, I would like to know that somatization disorder is just one problem under a big umbrella, not big umbrella, called somatoform disorder. Okay? Somatoform disorder has many children, and it's an umbrella term for conditions where doctors have looked for the problems and they could not find it. So the nurse says psychiatrist, come. You are the next person who's estimating doctor, not my tell us what to go on. All right. So We call it somatoform disorder, and under that umbrella, we have many children, and the first son is somatization disorder. Now, somatization disorder is a condition characterized by physical symptoms for which there is no known cause. There is no known physical, medical cause, assuming we psychiatrists are not medical people. Well, they are, mind you. So they have done everything. Doctors have checked and checked. The cardiologists have done all the surgeons have done all the obstetrician, the gynecologists have done all they can, and so forth and so on. They could not get what the problem is. They are confused. So they set a consult to us, and then we come, we look at everything that is happening. And then, because we know where the brain is actually, and where the mind is living in the brain. We put one or two together, we throw cows from the ground, we dance around it, and then we listen. After a while, we hear something. And we ask if it's somatization disorder, meaning that somehow the person is having problems as a result of some issues going on in the mind. Okay? And we need that for that. It's also called medically unexplained or functional symptoms. Okay? In fact, there are other derogatory names. Those other doctors call it. They say they are fat folder syndrome, meaning that these people are just too special that storing, you keep writing until your folder becomes so big. Have you been to that some folder that becomes so big that they exploded? They are using plasters to come them together. And when we bring them like a test, you know, I was back going to just to find the last place where the last doctor is. So it's also called that. It's also called worried well. They look well, but they are worried. In fact, the doctor said there is nothing wrong with you, but you know all is not well with you. All right. So let's look at a few statistics. And you see that 47.7 to 57.7% in primary health care settings in Nigeria. Meaning that most people who go to the hospital, especially the primary health centers, have somatoform disorder, of which one of them is somatization disorder. They have complaints for which examination, investigations could not tell what the problem is. Okay, let's look at the world over. Of course, you know there are so many persons in the world, close to 8 billion or even more. All right, Nigeria will increasing the number of the world because we can't make money. We should make bills. Yes, that's why the poor have more. What we do with all the time we have this. Yeah, so all over the world, when you have India, China, and their population, and everybody else, it becomes 5 to 7% of the general population. All right. Then young people tend to be more affected. 11 to 21% of young people. All right. Middle age is 10 to 20%. Then the older people, 1.5 to 13%. You know why the older people who are supposed to have material have less? Because many times when you check the old people, you find something as a doctor. And you can just blame it on that thing. Take for instance, if you look at the old man's heart, he came to you, pains on the leg, pains on the back, you know, he's not sleeping his money when he needs to go his wallet and all those things. And we just check his heart. So what? Not looking well. That's the problem. That's the problem. So you can blame it on that. But meanwhile, he has somatization disorder. So because of that confusion, the problems of old age, they tend to have a lesser value. But it could be more. Now, sex. Women say, oh yeah. But we were everyone compared to men. So more women are affected. You know, women have so many parts where things can go wrong more than men. Am I lying? Many parts, many parts. Everything the man has, I didn't have this actually very questions. they have additional work. So they tend to have so many parts, and when you have so many parts in the machine, you tend to spend more. So 10 times more in females than males, 10 times more in females than males. And then, of course, oftentimes it begins because it's dirty. Oftentimes it begins when someone is below 30 years of age. Yes. Now check yourself, think again. Had there been time when somehow you just kept on having this feeling, this pain, this sensation in your body, and you cannot replace it? Probably went to the chemist. Let me start from there, but that's where we begin. He went to the chemist and he mixed drugs for you, and he told you it was malaria. After you took malaria drug, you went back again. He gave you another malaria drug. It did not stop. He went back again. They mixed like 3 different medicines. It did not stop. And then somehow someone encouraged you to go to the hospital. You went there, the doctors did every investigations. It's proved malaria, it's proved typhoid, it's proved every of those things, and then told you to go home. There was nothing wrong with you. Or just gave you multivitamins if you were not happy. And you went back. The problem continued until one day it doesn't go wrong. Or you just became so busy with something and you forgot to check for the problem. And the problem went away. Okay? So, yes, it happens, especially when people are young. Next slide, please. So, how do we tell someone has somatization disorder? First of all, the first one we have symptoms, not just one, many times more than 2. Sometimes it could be up to 5 or more. Okay? Sometimes in the midst of this quantity, the person may choose specific ones that trouble them the most. It could be that they are having a running stomach, they are having constant hiccups that they don't know where it's coming from. Okay? Sometimes it could be that they are feeling movement, sensations in their body. Yes, can happen that way. But the one that bothers them the most is this chronic feeling of tiredness. Even when they have slept enough, even when they eat a whole bag of what they like, name it. Okay? Then you still feel tired, exhausted for no reason, Those are the most pressing of them. They are many. And to make the diagnosis when you have plenty symptoms. And then these symptoms are recurrent. Sometimes some symptoms will pack their lives and new ones will take up the space. It's changing, like this baby we just talked about. Okay, so these symptoms are genuinely felt. This person feels it. He's not pretending. It's real. It's real. Sometimes it can even make them cry, make them feel worried, and make them ask questions. Okay? They keep having this. So a lot of systems are affected, the urinary system. Sometimes it can affect even some aspect of the functions of the brain. Yes. Some people will just be there, and next thing they start feeling like they are paralyzed or one part of the body is weak. Meanwhile, that's not going. They are feeling it generally. Okay? Or sometimes they will just begin to sweat excessively. Sometimes the heart will start beating abnormally too. They feel it. All right? So it can affect multiple systems, reproductive system, digestive system. It's not due to a no medical condition. And it's not because this person smokes or does weed or does crack cocaine or does polos or Thailand or Arizona. Okay? No, not because of any of that. Those things are bad on their own, but it's not because of that. Or it's not even due to another mental health condition. Because there are some mental health conditions one we have, and they need to have what we call somatic hallucination, meaning that even when someone has not touched them, they feel someone is touching them. Sometimes they feel as if it's not objects placed on their body, or a cold placed on their body, or they feel as if there is a snake in their body, and that will make them feel they have spiritual attacks. Some will say that they have worms in their stomach, or they feel like an organ in their body has gone rotten, Also, it is not really because those things are true, it's because they are ill. Okay? So it's not because they have mental health condition. These people don't have a mental health illness per se, as we define it. It's just because something is generating symptoms. Now, another thing you notice among these people is that they feel to accept reassurance, even from many doctors. When they visit the hospital today, and the doctor does all the tests, they examine them, check them, they are cooperative, everything. And the doctor says, sorry, madam, I can't find anything wrong with you. Are you sure this is really what is going on? The sort of this doctor is not good. The good doctors are from Japan. He wants to be in a field once. They move to another friend who recommends, try my doctor, that doctor is wonderful. That doctor is wonderful. It's just so good. He cares a lot another. They refer you and you go, that one starts again. After listening to him, doing tests, examining, doing everything, and he can't find anything. And he summons the courage to tell you, this madam, your tests are all okay. I don't think there's anything really wrong with you. They move to the next person, and the person keeps going, and then they end in the hands of these Bobo sellers, these charlatans. Baba this, Baba that, with one drug or one concoction and can cure everything. Be walked on the road. Or you fall into the hands of these charlatans, pseudoscientists that move about. They say they have magnetic quantum resonance and they write to the church, say, Pastor, we are stopping your church. Want to diagnose your people, general checkup. They give you a letter showing the symbol of World Health Organization. Say they sent them. And then after they say it's cheap, affordable. They come. Everybody lines up. They tell you see this machine, just hold it on your hands. You see this computer, it will scan you from your head to the toenails, and it begins to read. At the end, there is a problem everywhere. Problems everywhere. From the head, there are problems. To the scalp, problems. To the skull, problems. Hormones, haywire. Your tongue, problems. Your teeth, problems. Your eyes, problems. Everywhere. One problem. Everything all that we say, you just get red. Then you might die. You are about to die. You tell a man who slept with his wife yesterday that, in fact, your arteries in your penis are blocked. And then, when they are done, you feel with fear. It's as if the Holy Spirit descended on you and convinced you and convicted you of all these things you have been doing. And then you are afraid. You literally shaking. And then you don't worry. We have this supplement. All you need to do is pay and supply it. You can't find it in the market. You supply it. It contains monounsaturated fatty acids. It contains seeds. Yes, it stem cell. That's the one who is in the issue. I will return everything like a baby, stem cells, all kinds, and these things are tremendously expensive. So they substitute one bondage for hook you onto it, get there, that is your salvation, and they keep providing you more money, just to pay, and you keep taking those supplements, and they tell you you're getting better. Meanwhile, nothing was really wrong with you. Another one they do is they bring a bowl of water, insert one equipment that looks like this rain boilers, okay, and ask you to put your feet inside. And they tell you that when you notice color changes, those are toxins coming out of different parts of your body. When you see blue, it's toxin coming from your joints. When you see green, it's coming from your kidneys. When you see and by the time right before you see colors change. And you are bamboozled, you are surprised that kind of is coming out of your own body. Yeah. You know, meanwhile, it is actually coming out of that metal. And at the end, you are right for exploitation. You know. So these people keep moving from places to places, and they fall into all sorts of traps because they couldn't believe what the doctor was saying, that actually their physical body is okay, but their psychological health may be having issues. Of course, like Jack said, no one wants to be the friend of a psychiatrist. At some point, the Commissioner of Health in Rivers State was a psychiatrist, and he was close to the governor. That was the tenor of Governor Rotimi Chibika, the best governors we've had in the state. So they began to accuse the governor of having a mental illness because he was close to a psychiatrist. But the best friends you can have are actually psychiatrists. Am I not making sense? Yes, actually. Yeah. So, because we know medical and non-medical stuff. Yes. We know medical and non-medical stuff. So, they often come from one doctor to the other. It's called doctor shopping. Okay? Shop doctors. They want someone to find out what is wrong and put an end to the problems. Okay? And won't end them. So these four problems affect them like it affected this lady. When imagine a wife who has traumatization disorder. Every time she's complaining, the man comes back from a hard day's job and all he's getting is paining me there, massage here, come, let's pray. They're attacking me, let's pray, and all that. The man will begin to get tongueless. Okay? And from there, issues can snowball. So much expenses on drugs, so much expenses on investigation, so much hospital consultation. Quarrel will develop, you're not supporting, you are too demanding, and from there, you fight with the family, the children sees it, okay? And from there, children teach their turns and all that. The grown-up son stands up to the father tries to beat him to submission, that one becomes quite erratic, this just gets bad everywhere. In-laws stepping, third party stepping, the apportion claims, the person apportion refuses to accept the claim, and before you know, stay your home, let me stay my home. From there, marriage is disgrace, trouble starts. And then from I'm not feeling fine, I'm not coming to work today, please cover for me. Next time, I'm not feeling fine, I'm not coming to work, cover for me. You get tired of covering, envy begins to notice, queries begin to fly, someone gets sacked. Okay? Really suspiciousness. That person, that colleague in the other community that wasn't like, she's told me something, putting things on my chair. Of course, there are so many pastors or spiritualists who will always point a finger and the story runs, it's believed, and then you start beating the river naked, start killing fowl, throwing at the junctions, start cooking rice, putting egg in the middle of the room and all that, you know, just because of civilization. These injunctions, you know. Okay, we start buying raw babies and throwing at the water floods and all that, you know. So all those kind of things causing so much distress. It can affect job, can affect happiness, can affect everything, every aspect of life, education, name them. And at the end, the first thing is win. Next slide, please. Now, I told you that somatoform disorder has the first term called somatization disorder, which is why I'm talking. But there are other children who can now dissociative disorders. Can still be fancy names, dissociative sensory or sensory loss or anesthesia, where the person just suddenly starts feeling sensation in certain parts of the body. Okay? All right? Or sometimes a baby feel paralyzed or weak in certain aspects of the body. Or sometimes we really start having what looks like convulsions. But actually, if you do an EEG test to show that electrical discharges that are normal are taking place in combustion. It will not be there. Okay? Yes. And if you look at the pattern of the combustion, it almost looks like the person is pretending. Imagine somebody telling you he had combustion, and at the end, he witnessed the combustion. Can you imagine it? Many times when people have real combustion, okay, they don't recall having it. If the people around that tell the story, they wake up, can't remember what happened. All they can see are injuries on their bodies, and feel pains, but they can't tell what really happened. But this one can tell what really happened. Then he or she was not prepared. Something happened. It was not a really typical combustion, but something happened. Okay? So we have dissociative motor disorders, dissociating compulsions, I mentioned it, amnesia. Yes, someone forgets, especially when a trauma has happened. Somehow he forgets about the trauma, forgets everything about it. What happened to you? I can't remember. Can't remember. All right, especially when things like rape or when you have witnessed a mass casualty event, accidents and all that, it can happen. It's very for it. Feel the person will forget who he is or his current life. And even sometimes travel, take on a new identity, be a different name, relate with people, bathe, shower, cook, eat, speak a different language altogether. And when he sees his husband, he says, I don't know you. He goes back to his former lover and appears one day at his residence. I say, why have you not called? What is happening? And maybe that one is already married and the trouble starts with the whole. But she was not being mischievous, or he was not being mischievous. He just had a trauma that resulted in a disconnection between the part of the brain that helps one identify himself. Okay? So you can have stupor, okay? The person discloses they are not talking, just like that. Then identity disorder, having multiple personality. This is very rare, okay? It's kind of multiple personality, multiple identity disorder. And then dissociative autonomic dysfunction, okay? Fast breathing for all reason, or the heart beating out of control for all reason. Okay? So those are other symptoms. Then they have hypochondriacal disorder, where the person believes he has a disease, sick, to be HIV, AIDS, to be cancer. It just believes, based on how he feels, that he has a disease. And every attempt to tell him he doesn't have that disease, those are also. Then the body dysmorphic disorder, where the person believes he has a defect of his body, or he believes that one part of his face is just looking fairer than the other, is bothering him. Meanwhile, that's not good. It's not true. Or even if there are some discrepancies, it's not that noticeable or enough to cause distress or problem. Then this person exaggerates it. It becomes a source of problems for him and begins hunting for correction from one place to the other. It's not going to be this life. All right, so what are the risk factors? What are the causes? I will not bore you with this. I'm really getting tired of myself. I've been in this. All right, so when we want to look at the cause, we can put it under biological, psychological, and social. This is the biopsychosocial model of diseases. Okay? In terms of biological, it has been found that there are clusters of genes in some people who have this condition. Okay? Certain genes that look like each other, just relocated to a certain part of a human being, they started causing problems. That has been observed. And also, it's also been observed that in some families, it seems to run in the families. One person may be having such kind of complaints, another person is having similar kind of complaints. Okay, that also tells you that there might be a genetic that could be inherited. Okay, neurochemistry, there has been shown also that some chemicals in the brain appear to be designed, especially serotonin. Okay, don't bother about it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so just that chemicals in the brain can start dancing away. Okay, doesn't know that. Then psychologically, chronic stress, all right, can make someone to begin to feel somehow in their own skin. Yes. Anxiety, excessive worry. There are people who have anxiety as a personality. Okay. And there are people who have anxiety as an event. Okay. So if you notice, there are people who are just joking. Everything gets them worried. you went to buy something and you didn't come back just because of the queue you ran into. They are calling you like 10 times, 20 times. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Are they forcing you not to speak? What is happening? Are they kidnapped you? And then should I come? All those kind of things. People who have that personality, those people are at risk of developing this condition. Trauma, childhood trauma especially, okay, can cause things like this. Imagine it's like sitting and saying is shooting something. Okay, so imagine witnessing a horrific situation. I remember someone who watched Robert shoot his dad, and the guy they fought him in the house. Of course, later on in life, he needed a psychiatrist, long after it had happened. Okay, so trauma can also cause rape, physical abuse, all those kind of things can predispose people to some funny things later in life from their body. Personality types, there's some personality types that appear to so like it takes some patience to go. So personality types, okay? So yes, there are some personality types that are prone to anxiety, and there are people who have this narcissistic personality disorder. They also are prone to developing this condition. Yes, okay. They also predisposed to it. And then the people who have this excessive dramatization kind of personalities and all that, okay, people who are very hysteric, they tend to predispose them, intensely predisposed to this condition. Social issues, yes. If you belong to a culture where they say to be a man, you have to swallow it, you don't talk, you don't complain. Many of those things you swallow, they turn around and start choking you inside. Okay? Cultural influences, all right? And then social support, where there is lack of social support, where people are not getting the much needed support they need, they can convert all those needs into abnormal physical symptoms. That is why I like that we tend to band together if you know that. Hey, what is going on? You have someone, what is going on? You cannot be here hearing shout on the house. Madam, when you have to choke you, you understand, you're ready to come in. Everyone wants to do a hero. Everyone wants to shoot man to another thing. It helps sometimes, okay? It does help. So let's like this. So what are the impacts on daily living? How does it affect people? All right. So personally, it can cause discomfort or stress. Okay? It can go beyond there. It can affect your ability to do normal daily things you're supposed to do for yourself. It can cause worry, full-blown anxiety disorder requiring treatment. Depression can set in. After all these things, sometimes you begin to wonder whether God has forgotten you. Is it not? Yes. And that can cause depression, where someone will have psychiatrist attention. On a personal level, between you and people, worry, problem. Everybody can become a suspect. Okay? From the person who came and offered him food and he said, thank you, my stomach is really that you left. Not say, oh, this one doesn't like me. Maybe the same for us. Okay? Or to the person who came to your house and forgot the handkerchief on the house and left, white handkerchief for that one. And the lady diagnosed is rich. Okay? So what else? Okay? So sometimes the problem becomes too difficult, too much for someone close to you to bear. It could be husband, it could be children, it could be auntie, it could be mother. Every time complain, you get tired. And everyone has enough problem to last them a lifetime in this country. Carrying another person's home is being altruistic, okay? But sometimes there is so much you can do and not do more. Okay, so you just want to be on your own, you don't want to be okay. You are tired, okay? So it can result in job loss. Sometimes if it affects students, it can be severe enough to cause them to withdraw from school. It can drain people of income and bring them down from middle class to low social economic class. Right? And then, please, The next one, people should not be looking away from there. I'm not seeing anything again. I say it because I'm talking too much. Don't take the slide back so they can see. So social withdrawal, the broader social context, like as we are gathered and we came out because we like social interactions. But someone who has a problem, who withdraws socially, they can stop being in church, they don't want to attend again, home self fellowship, they don't want to go, old boys association, they don't want to show up, gatherings like this, they don't want to show up. They'll just withdraw into their shell. Okay? Sometimes they feel stigmatized. They feel that people are talking about this like every time goes to the hospital. Now when the party is going to for anything else, then they kill them like this. Now at mind the killer, those are those thinking issue. So feel that people are just talking to them. Sometimes they might not even be talking, they might just be discussing something else and laughing, and they look at them and they feel they are talking about you. You feel stigmatized. And then the person will feel socially isolated, meaning that people don't want to hang around you because of the negative vibes you get whenever they are around. You're not fun to be with. Every time your face is just tense, tight, they make the crack jokes, you're not laughing. You understand? So they just want to stay away, and that can result in social isolation. And then in other areas, medical complications from too much tests, medical complications can arise. And these are people who went and did surgery, and after they returned, later their tongue just got blocked, and they had to go back for another surgery because the surgical wound healed and blocked their intestines. Okay? So too much surgical intervention. Some people, because of this problem, they can have surgeries. People put them up just to look for things, and they cannot find it. They close it, and the healing process, more problem came up. All right? Or after they were closed, they forget cells on the inside. And they say ringing, so ring. And after 1 month, before you still ring, knock out and straight, then battery is not good enough, and then they go back to the hospital and discover another surgery. Okay? So complications can arise in the process of helping them. And then sometimes taking too much painkillers can make us ulcers. Is it not so? Yes. And they have that problem in addition to the medical problem. And then sometimes too many drugs, they eat drug without like food, and too many investigations can be the impact of this. Now, when we want to treat this thing, how do we go about it? The mainstay of treating people with this condition, after you have listened to them attentively as a doctor, listen to them in such a way that they don't feel like they are doing services. Okay, like they are stopping you, like they are half-wits, they are not intelligent. You know, there's a way a doctor will start you with things like that. Okay, or it's like a beat down. Okay, like when you are stuck, the doctors are writing the regulation. Wow. Okay, so all those kind of things, we as psychiatrists, we pretend as we are paying attention. Okay, we keep our best face. Nice guys. Oh, is that so? Ah, okay. All this kind of stuff. And you just be firing down. You don't know that our minds are somewhere else where we want to face with this. All right, so we listen to the story, okay, empathize with you, show you that we care. All those things help psychologically to calm the distress at least. And then we examine you, okay? Some of those examinations will not even require touching you, okay? As like some of you have already examined it because of the way you then okay, don't worry, everything pass. All right, so we examine you and all that, after everything, we are now convinced somatization disorder. We now reassure you. Do you know that people who have this condition, many of them, up to half of them in a year, their problem will just go away and they will hand that pastor that just said, you are free! You know that it doesn't make problems. Okay? So a lot of people will go away. After a while, they will come back. Okay? But for some people, especially when they have plenty problems, the problem tends to continue like Nigeria's problem. Okay? So we do a lot of psychotherapy. Psychotherapy actually is the mainstay of management. We talk to you in such a way that you begin to shift your mind from thinking about the problem so much into focusing on something else. Okay? So when you shift your mind into other important things and keep it there, you tend to notice less of those problems going on in your body. And when that happens, eventually that distraction becomes a new normal and the whole things are passed away. Yes. See, I'm a pastor. Okay, so psychological management very important. And then biological is mainly to manage, that is drug treatment, even if it's surgical intervention, whatsoever. It's mainly to treat complications. Because when the person has taken so much painkillers and now has us, we have to treat the ulcer, isn't it? When the person has had so much surgery that the stomach is not looking like the back of the ulcer, you have to correct it. It's not. Second, with plastic surgery, they now cover all those things, make the tongue of good nice and all that. Okay? And so forth and so on that may arise with treatment medications and all that. Okay? Another thing you must know is that social treatment is important. We don't just only talk to the patient, but when it's done, we don't just deal with the patient. We look at the surroundings of the patient, up to the home front, up to the environment. You see how we can help provide, get the relatives to provide support, get the husband to back off, get the wife to calm down, get all those things, such things, job, finances. Not that we give you money, we don't give money, we just go show you where to go from. Okay? All right, so, and then of course, sometimes many doctors may have to come in at least to see their opinions to be sure that the somatization is all right. Now, what is the outlook, the future for people who have this condition? Next slide, please. Very important. Now, on the screen, you're going to see favorable and unfavorable factors. If the favorable ones are things that means that when you notice them, or if they are there, it means that this condition will be manageable, be okay, things will be fine. The other ones, if you notice a lot of them, it means that been doing for a long time. Okay? Yes. It does not mean that God cannot heal. Mind you. Amen. Amen. God can heal all things. For with God, nothing shall be impossible. So do pray. Do seek the face of God. Miracles will happen. It does, yes. So, favorable. When you have fewer symptoms, the fewer the symptoms, the better. The more the symptoms, the worse. Positive relationship between the patient and the doctor. So when you have a connection to your doctor, you feel this doctor is my doctor. You understand? So here because my doctor means that there's something else they get whenever they meet that doctor. The way he talks to them, the way he acts about them, and the way they want to express themselves freely before that makes them have a sense of belonging. So when a doctor and the patient have that connection, it means that what the doctor says, the patient is likely to obey and do. Okay? And the patient is ready to sit down and tell the doctor the true state of things. It helps in this condition. Okay? And so if there are existing mental health conditions and they are well addressed, yes, the outcome is good. Okay? When the person learns how to cope, oh, that's good. There are people who can cope with everything in life. Okay? So when you try to avoid unnecessary medications and testing, it helps. Because with each test people do, that will show that the anxiety and expectations rise. So in these conditions, once we have made the diagnosis, we stop allowing the patient to give us into more tests or give us into prescribing results. Because many of them will want you to do that. They assure them that it's not necessary. Because when they do those tests and they don't see anything, they now begin to feel more that it's something supernatural. And that will raise more anxiety. Have you ever felt that like someone is after your life? As in, you don't ever threaten you. Eh? Imagine someone to be see, and you know that it's part of this person is to grow your village. But anybody they tell that person usually don't speak the same but that's okay. So all those kind of things. We don't want to lead you on and try to end you there. Change the focus and outcome is better. And then the negative one, any life trauma, okay? Comorbid mental health conditions, personality disorders, higher symptom severity, okay? When the symptoms are so common, and negative cognitive and behavioral factors. There are people who, because of life experience, they have this brighter side of life. Everything is negative, negative, negative. negative. In fact, when you came there for the first time, what you say, I hope you're not that disappointed. Okay, and all that. So it has a way of laying out how its illness um, comes out. Summary. Now show them summary to help people still read. Yes. Somatization disorder, of course. Da 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 da. Outcome differs based on individual. You like that? That's fine. Thank you for this.
We all have again for Dr. Mooney. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Wow. What a very interesting session. I've never laughed so hard in class. So much. So I think we can all agree that's something like they say, it's not about choose and about me. And we have agreed on that's actually true. So as much as you feel those sensations, always make sure that you say it, doctor. Hallelujah. Amen. So now we're going to go on a wellness break very quick. And what I'm going to serve to you. And also at the same time, because this is a social event, we'll also implore you to please speak to somebody. Preferably if it's something serious, we have doctors that are here to entertain your questions. As we continue, please join me as I give welcome the convener of Sane Conference 55, Miss Alexandra Comfort.
Good afternoon once again. I hope you're having a good time. If you're not having a good time, I'm having a good time because you won't get this knowledge or get it anywhere. If you want to get it, you have to pay a lot to get it. So like the comparison, you pay for a wellness break. Wellness break, you work out, get big people for them, people stretch, drink water. Of course, also try to serve lots of help. Don't like that you're wearing now. Get snacks, and all of that. The speakers are here present. When I was speaking with Dr. Wadu, I really appreciate all these panelists. I would say like countless number of times I appreciate all of you. When I was speaking with him, I said, see this topic, so my attention is other. It's like the most thing I want to hear about aside from all the other things that make sense because these are things that happen every day. And like you said, just turn it to spiritual problems and all of that because why is doctor telling me I don't have problem, I'm having symptoms of malaria. So after the wellness break, we'll be coming back, I'll be going to one session before the panel conversation. The panel conversation is the climax of that's the climax of what we are doing here. Because you have to ask your questions for what you get here and the ones you've done here. It's not free consultation, I didn't say that one. So, but then you have the liberty to ask as much questions as possible. For the two sessions we've had already, write down your questions you also have. So, on behalf of me, myself, and every other person, I open you up to the wellness break. Please. Please try not to go, stretch your leg, and then come over. Yes, I am. Okay, let's see.
And I'll be speaking as a mental health physician. I'll be speaking as a public servant. I'll be speaking as a mom. I'll be speaking as a wife. I'll be speaking as a Christian, even though my colleagues in thrown very straight bullets to pastors. But we are Christians. And surprisingly, they are men of God. Oh. Seriously, they love and fear God and God. We have to make some things right, okay? Even as we serve God, He wants us to do some things right and we have to do it right. Mental health is one field of medicine that is very close to spirituality. In short, after God, I believe we should actually respect a psychiatrist or a mental health practitioner because these people, I mean, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the psychotherapists, the mental health nurses, mental health counselors, they are very, very close to God in terms of a lot of things about the mind. Thank you, brother, for that lecture. It was very beautiful. Okay. Childhood adversity, understanding childhood adversities. When you hear the term childhood adversity, what comes to your mind? You should know this. It's a range of childhood experiences and events that poses a threat to a child's physical and mental well-being. So the experiences, the events that would occur in childhood that will either affect your child now or in the future, stem childhood adversity. The WHO gave a definition and it says it's a form of physical and emotional abuse, neglect or exploitation that results in actual or potential harm of a child. Now, it's important to note that I will be interchanging this term, childhood adversity, with another term, ACE, adverse childhood experiences, because this is more encompassing. It covers all the adversities of childhood. Childhood here is under adult, that's 17 and below. So it's important to know that the ACEs, that is the adverse childhood experiences, are highly stressful and potentially traumatic events. It's also worthy of note that childhood adversities can actually occur as a single event or sometimes as prolonged events. Okay, it can either occur once or occur and keep occurring and keep occurring. Now there are so many. I'm just trying to be simple on this. Childhood adversities are so many, ranging from physical to sexual abuses, neglect, extreme poverty, discrimination, domestic violence, community violence, parental issues, substance use. But in the classification of the ACEs, how it came initially, it started with physical, sexual, and emotional abuse initially. And thereafter, we progress to having an experience like if a child has a mother who is being treated violently or a parent who is being treated violently, that child is exposed to an adverse childhood experience. Or even living with somebody who has a mental health issue, that's a form of adverse child experience, that is childhood adversity. Living with someone who abuses substance or who abuses drug or who is into alcohol is a form of adverse childhood experience. Living with someone who has been in prison before or has been incarcerated before for one reason or the other is a form of childhood experience. So along the line, other forms were added, like parental divorce and separation. In fact, this is topping the list now because of the generation we are. Okay, people don't tend to tolerate anymore, plus people are ready to speak out. So you see there is a higher rate of separation and divorce. And of course, when two cows fight, they say the grass will suffer. And it's seriously affecting children. It's affecting childhood, okay? my colleagues will attest to the fact that you cannot see a case of a child having a mental disturbance. Most times when you trace, when you go to that history where you have issues with the parents and all of that, you see there's a thing there, because sometimes there's either a parental issue or a dysfunctional family ongoing, or there's something, parental separation or divorce, or just ongoing marital issues. And then it affects the child. The parents may not know, but this is affecting childhood. We have also emotional and physical neglect. Some children, they face this in their childhood. Some of us, because I'm talking to us, some of us, when you look back, okay, we've experienced that emotional neglect, parental neglect, physical neglect. At one point in your life where you needed support, you did not get it. This is a childhood adversity. And now we have experience of social disadvantages. What do I mean by that? Economic hardship, case study in Nigeria. We know what is happening now. And someone will ask, is this a form of childhood adversity? Is this a form of adverse childhood experience that the country is having? How should they affect my child, or how should they affect this child? Yes, it's a form of stress, okay? So it's a form of adverse childhood experience. Aside that, even community crisis, for those of the generation Alpha or Beta that witness those wars, okay, Second World War or something, it was not a pleasant thing. For some of us, like me, myself, I witnessed community crisis. Okay, when you hear my name, you know the state I come from. I actually witnessed crisis and my tribe was involved. And it happened that I had to stop school for about 1 year because my parents were trying to make sure I and my siblings were alive. So we were running from one point to one uncle just to make sure that period would stay alive until the crisis was over. My daughter, okay? Now, we still have things like historical trauma. Yes, you might say, oh, that's been building that collapse in the USA, or how did they affect all these lucky events and all that? It just happened. You see a childhood adversity. Should I ask you, is it a childhood adversity actually? Something happened, historical events? Yes, it is, because for some children, it affected them. Okay, people have different ways they cope. Some people, they are very resilient, they have good coping mechanism, they're able to cope and adjust with changes of life. But some people, they are not, although there are various factors affecting that. So some people are not able to cope, and then historical events as this can affect them. So we've been hearing about childhood adversities, adverse childhood experiences together. What do they actually do? I've tried to explain it, but what does it do? Now, when this occurs, what does it do in the long run? It affects the health, simply put, either directly or indirectly. When this happens to a child, the child will now maybe try to find a way to cope, and some of them, they will go into harmful lifestyles, trying to cope. They will engage in risky health behaviors. Some of them will have to venture into substance use. Some of them will go into smoking. Some of them will go into alcoholism and other various bad lifestyles. And how will it end? The physical health will be affected. The mental health will be affected. And the social health will be affected. Sure, all forms of health will be affected. Physically, when this occurs, like for example, a child that is unable to cope with the adverse childhood experiences that he or she is experiencing might now go to take marijuana or start using cannabis or go into drugs. And then the physical health, maybe it could lead to the path of respiratory problems for that person, or even other life-threatening conditions. The mental health might start having issues with their behavior, with their mood. They will start having mental health challenges. And even socially speaking also, their academics may be impaired, vocation will be impaired, their occupation. So they are unable to carry out their normal lifestyle because they have been affected. Now, I will bore you with a little statistics. I couldn't get that of Nigeria per se, but I'm just telling you the one of the UK at least. It is important to know that half of their population there, of children, would have experienced one or more form of adverse childhood adverse experiences or childhood adversities. So about half of them, about 52%. Now we have about 23% having experienced one. Let me assume maybe a physical abuse or a sexual abuse or economic hardship or parental separation or parental divorce, just one. 16% may have experienced 2 to 3 adverse childhood experience, and about 9% for adverse childhood experience. We don't need to know all of that, but what am I saying in essence? There are a lot of persons that have experienced this, even in the Nigerian population, but not everybody is able to speak up, even as they grow. Some of them tend to grow with this until it goes to the end stage and they start having traumatic experiences. The last bus stop, post-traumatic stress disorder, they start having issues as that. Now, we've been able to understand childhood adversity. Why I asked them to portray this is that now we're going to the next part, traumatic stress in adults. Okay, I'm just going carefully so that we'll understand why it's moving from point A to point B. Post-traumatic stress in adults. It is worthy of note that these childhood adversities would present itself and then further lead to trauma in adulthood. Traumatic experience per se in adulthood. Trauma is one possible outcome. Trauma is one possible outcome of exposure to adversity. So what can happen when this is occurs? A lot of things can happen, but for the purpose of this lecture, what can happen is trauma. It is one possible outcome, and it is an emotional response to a terrible event. Trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, and it occurs when a person perceives an event as being threatening or harmful, either physically or psychologically. It's important to know that these ACEs we've been talking about, these childhood adversities, how does it come to this? First of all, it will limit the child's ability to cope. So that child's ability to cope is disturbed, and therefore future stressful events can affect the child, leading to a traumatic response. The traumatic response on its own can be an acute thing from one ACE, and then from one adversity, there is a response straight on, or from repeated ACEs, repeated childhood adversities. When it's been occurring, it can cause a traumatic response. And also, there's something they call a secondary traumatic response. That is, it is when the trauma is experienced by another person because of the ACE that has happened to another person, to a different person per se. Now, trauma can actually be mild or can occur in a severe form. Okay, it can be mild or it can be severe. It can result in physical and mental health disturbances, ranging from behavioral disturbances, mood disturbances, learning disturbances. Now, what are the trauma-related responses that can happen in an adult? We have emotional responses. There could be changes in terms of their emotions, okay? There could be fear, there could be anxiety, there could be different issues happening with the emotions. Anger, guilt, hopelessness, irritability, okay? Emotional outbursts, this sudden outburst can happen. There could be also physical affectation, headache, fatigue, and all of that. Now, what can happen at the end of the whole thing? My time is already up, I guess. Okay, this one is kind of an overview. This is a very long topic. You gave me a long topic that has three in one, and you expect me to talk for 5 minutes. Okay, the end of everything usually in the spectrum of the mental health of this traumatic experience, or this traumatic stress, is a post-traumatic stress disorder. How do we identify this traumatic stress in adults? For some people, they start having flashbacks, they start living memories, they start experiencing this, they start having mindfulness. For some, they get zoned out, there's avoidance, there's numbness. Some of them they start acting aggressive, there are changes in some of their behavioral actions, okay? They are becoming irritable. For some of them, they even start being hypervigilant, easily startled, and other symptoms. Now, best practices. Best practices. Now, I've been able to explain all last time what are the best practices. What can we do? Everyone has a role to play. Okay? The psychiatrist has a role to play. Psychologists have a role to play. Those in the health space have a role to play. Personally, you have a role to play. The community has a role to play. The government has a role to play. Your own role, what do you do? There are so many things you can do. You can always have a safe space. You can have a safe space. Look for better support system. Look for positive support system. And it helps us know what can we do. Of course, listening to your judge. So you can always give a whole lot of clinical psychologists. They are there for a reason. They can talk. They are talking specialists. You can give them if they are issues as this so that it will be addressed. There are therapies, there are different trauma-focused therapies, there are cognitive behavioral therapies, there are family therapies, group therapies, self-therapies that can be done to make sure the person ends well. And what can the community do at large? We should definitely avoid the issue of stigmatization, number one. Then the society also, what can they do? Programs like this, Sane conference, I really wish it would go global. This should go global. So that more people, more than this 200 capacity and senior, they are aware. But unfortunate enough now, they are aware of this. There are many people out there that are not aware of what this child capacity can cause in adulthood. And so they are left with that. So in summary, we can all help the world and ourselves as well, because I know a number of people have passed through this. And by us doing what we are supposed to do, we can help ourselves and help the society in addressing childhood trauma.
So again, one more time for Dr. Rosemary. So now we are going straight into the panel session. And the first person I'd like to call, ladies and gentlemen, she's very passionate about mental health, very dedicated. Join me as a big welcome, Mrs. Etin Yvonne. Our coming today is our keynote speaker, Dr. Janet Sobey. And the funniest psychologist ever, Dr. Olu. So please bear in mind, if you know you have any question at all, from the keynote stage to where Dr. Olu spoke, and then now Dr. Olu, please kindly bear in mind your questions very quickly. it has been a very, very interesting conversation. Have we enjoyed ourselves? Have we been learning? Have we been learning? All right. Have we been stopped? Okay, Dr. Johnson has something for us. Ask question now. After my information, ask now. Like, yes, if you do something after that, if you call my first of it, I will send you account number first. As we beg, please make sure that you utilize this opportunity. So we have this session here, and she's going to be talking about the topic rise of awareness and typically social isolation. So my first question is, can you differentiate between loneliness and social isolation? And also, what are the implications, what are the mental health implications of loneliness?
Loneliness and isolation. They're similar but distinct. Loneliness is a state of disconnect and isolation. You will feel like you cannot connect. And the thing is, you can be around people, but you're lonely. While isolation is you just being in a different environment, probably maybe you moved from one location to the other, and you have to now start building yourself again. You can be isolated or lonely. So you could decide that I just want to be alone, I want to go somewhere and just chill. So you're isolated, but you're not lonely. That's the difference between the two. Then, loneliness is the one that really has, that really causes issues for us. And it could result into a lot of mental health problems, like depression. And depression is one thing that I would use the term, I would use this figure, 90% of individuals go through depression. We have doctors here, so they can correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't even know you're going through depression. You don't even know that you're depressed. You just find yourself that you are out of it. Some people will say, I don't feel like it. You just want to be there. You're there. You don't feel like doing what you used to love. You don't relate to people. A lot of times we find it in our children. For those of us who have children, you have a child that is most active, but all of a sudden the child is withdrawn, or your spouse is withdrawn, quiet, not talking, sometimes they cry. So those are signs of depression. Then you also have anxiety. The person is always afraid of. Anxiety is fear. Anxiety is just the big name for fear. Phobia. Don't want to do this. You have phobia for this, you have phobia for that. And long-term and prolonged feeling of loneliness can result in severe anxiety. For those of us here that read and watch news and watch documentaries, there was a time I found, I saw something and I was shocked because in the video, the lady was walking her dog, but she was in a bubble. A bubble made with polyethylene, like rubber. She was in a bubble. Her dog was outside the bubble. She was holding a leash. That was born out of her anxiety, based on the fact that she might have been alone for a long time. So like there's now fear of relating, fear of having connection with people. That is it's a mental health disorder born from deep feeling of loneliness. Now the person is afraid to connect, is afraid to relate. There are several mental health issues. And most of the doctors here today talked about anxiety. We also talk about PTSD. Speakers had just finished talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. You find that in adults, a lot of us have this. It was not born as a result of what happened today. It's as a result of what happened in the past. Something that happened when you were a child. Trauma. A child that, let's use the one we know that's popular, a child that was abused. Now, not just verbally, not just sexually. The child was abused physically, and the child didn't have an opportunity to talk. Now, we're not talking about just the females, we're talking about the men. Now, because we're focused on the females, we tend to forget the men. You find that individual grow up to be vocal adults. The man is broken, the women are broken. Then relating and connecting with the opposite sex or with their peers become an issue. They just want to, the person will say, please be busy, no strength for trouble, I just want to be with me, I not just want. But the truth is, there was and there is the problem. A lot of times we look at the surface. We don't look at the underlying problem. What was underneath? Because whether we like it or not, for every problem, there was a cause. There is a root cause. You're treating the head. Something broke about head.
Okay.
Something happened. So that's it.
So, one of those ones. I think the fact that we already, while she was speaking, she talked about children, so I'm going to pass the mic again to Dr. Rosemary. And I want to ask the audience, has anybody seen the movie Adolescent?
Yeah.
You've seen the show, yeah? You've seen the movie Adolescent? Okay. Well, I would encourage anyone to please see it's a Netflix series, Adolescent. I talk about the child that committed murder, and you see traces of it from child adolescent. I have a question I want to ask, and it's, can trauma experience in young childhood alter personality traits or individuals?
Take it again. Something about it. Take it out to the
Okay. Can trauma experiences in early childhood alter personality traits or coping mechanisms later in life?
Okay. If you keep giving me a long one. Okay, it can alter coping mechanisms, it can alter personality traits. Okay, as I said earlier, when childhood experiences happen or childhood adversities happen and it gets to a point where it becomes traumatic, childhood trauma or adulthood trauma is experienced, yes, it can affect. Everyone has an innate, will I say, behavioral or thought or personality. There's this innate one that makes you unique, that makes you you. Now, when somebody in his childhood, okay, is exposed to various childhood adversities, that could predispose one to having a change or even bringing out a personality. For example, if someone has that natural, will I say, tendency of being worried suboptimally, and now there's a childhood adversity or the person was abused, or let's say a physical abuse happens, okay? That could make that person tilt towards that personality of overly being anxious, okay, overly being worried. That's the personality shift, kind of. Do you understand? And yes, it could affect the coping mechanism. As I said, what this adverse childhood experiences does is that for a child, it could weaken let's say the ability, it could weaken the ability for somebody to cope. It breaks the resilience, that's it. It breaks the resilience. So when further stress is involved, okay, that person loses that coping mechanism, that coping ability. So it does affect. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Osman. Dr. Jack has something to say. So, maybe the question is a very nice one. Some people only see adverse events as something that breaks people. But sometimes adverse events can also make people, it depends, it will be positive. So I'm just sharing this story. This is not something I share most of the time. We're talking about mental health, so it's nice to say some of the things. I listened to the words of his poetry. They were very nice, but they're very deep things. Into mental health, to understand certain things. Now, what just share this story, please don't share it anymore. This will record you, don't put some on the screen and stuff. Growing up as an only son with a lot of sisters, I had this love for my dad, I had this love for my mom, but we always loggerheads. I don't know if you understand, like some husband and wife always fighting, and the children walk through suffer. So I withdrew into a shell, like loneliness and isolation. I withdrew into a shell. So they'll be in class teaching me, and I'm lost. I was just tricked. And I think some form of what we call the attention deficit, came in. I'm not surprised how it came in, doctor. So, yes, because I was just, so I wasted my whole school, primary and secondary schools. I was not learning anything. I was only learning like, till today they teach me something. I can't, so, it depends, but you see, that stuff was taught probably to a strength where I spent a lot of time reading, right? Then also, I was also a crying lady. Cry. Until I lost my father in a very traumatic way. And crying stopped. So my father, when I lose my father, I should cry now. He didn't know, I didn't cry again. The crying stops, and I became a very hardened individual. Forget the face. I became a very hardened individual. So sometimes, what appears to be a traumatic event may alter the personality. In essence, personality changes based on events. I was when I was in the military talking to them, there was this particular officer whose ship was attacked. And somehow he escaped with his rifle. He was the only person who survived. He's currently at the reference Ojo. He's under chains and lock. Once he remembers the situation, he will break the chains, shout, scatter, and destroy everything. And that's because of he survived that particular trauma. I don't know if you understand. So it could be some things that it goes both ways. There's nothing fixed, there's no straight jacket to answer this particular question. Because most times when we talk about adverse events, all we just see is the negative side of it. For people who suffer from bipolar illness, I was very surprised when a patient of mine called me and said, "Dr. Please, I'm breaking down. What's the problem?" It just got a very good news. And it's a blessing. So it's not only adverse events. It's a two-way. It's not the most time we focus on the negative. So I just want us not to focus on the negative and also have other things can lead to stuff.
So let's lend my voice to this question. First of all, it's what you see. You hear. It's what we call a feedback. What can we see? What cannot be seen is the general. Your personality is a composition of two things. What your parents give you, your genetic yes, aspects of your parents that are in you. And when your father sees you, you know that this behavior he gave to you. when your mother speaks to you, knows that please be paid for. When they say you're my son, you're my daughter, it's not looking like that. Okay? Image and likeness. So, the other aspect in phenotype is a combination of that genetic makeup and what the environment gives to you. The environment also gives. You're not all of your parents. The environment imprinted something into you now. Take for instance, your facial trait is part of your parents' are genetic. And the hardship you are facing. Yes. So we came up with this analogy that nature and nurture. Okay? Nature looks and nurture environment puts the outcomes. Okay? So your personality is a combination of what you inherited from your parents and how the environment has modified it and continues to modify it. Yes, by 18 years of age, your personality has been formed, but it is refined with life experiences. Okay. So when your parents gave you your genetic makeup, it came with some resilience, but in the gene they have, based on their own experiences. Okay, so they gave you part of their strength, the ability to stand up to a bully or not to stand up to a bully. Okay, the ability to take criticism, or to buckle on that, or to buckle on that. It's not how they give it to you, but that does not decide your destiny. What you buy from outside, they give them how hard, how soft, how good, how bad. Okay, also plays a role in all aspects of your personality. So your ability to cope is a combination of what you inherited and how the environment treated you. That will determine your resilience.
This one was for Dr. Wode. We have a lot of talking about adversity and the environment. I'm just going to go back to this perspective. We talked about loneliness and some of the contributing factors, trauma. So I want to ask, how can we build a sustainable connection and community with a mix of loneliness and isolation?
Okay, I'll say first of all, unique community. Because right now, one of the relationships are just completely new based on the technology. But technology is also one of our biggest problems when it comes to connecting to it. If you find a couple in the house, this person is familiar, she's a person of familiar, there's no communication. You need to have your own community. I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about people that you know have your back, people you can confide in, people you can talk to, people that you know that they are always there when you need them. Number two, why spending time on your phone? Yes, you're watching videos, skits, reels, all through do chats. Chats. Focus on chatting where you are having an exchange of communication, we're talking, we're relating, you're not just watching one video with the other. Three, volunteering. Okay, we say we are having a seminar now and we want to train people on how to play music. You're good with the keyboard, volunteer to train people. You find out that you will have a class. That gives you an opportunity to relate. That gives you your own people. You have your own data. I'm from Edo State. And when you get to Edo State, you see this block, that block, this block, that block, this block. This Saturday, they have a meeting. women at the end of the hold the women get there, they will dance, they will cheese, they will, when you're done, they will go. It helps you. It helps you break house. Instead of being there, you just like, this helps you. There are times when you just need to go out. Overseas, you say, you find a married couple who say, I'm having boys' nights today. Once a week, the man knows that in his boys' night, the woman watches the kids. There's another day in that week where in his girls' night, the man watches the kids. Because whether we like it or not, we all need time for ourselves, where we can associate, where we can blend with our social guardian, so that we have our own bonding time with our people. But we like that here in Africa. Here in Nigeria, we are too choked up with the need. There's so much need. Want to make money. There's no time. So we are tend to be isolated. So that's when it begins to organize people.
Oh, thank you very much, ma'am. So please, are there any questions from the crowd? Any question? Any question? Let's see if we can raise some hand. Any question? Okay, we have one question. Mr. John.
I'd like to bring the panelists. My question is procrastination a trauma response? Procrastination, is it a trauma response? Like, you have a lot of people who want to do this. You just find a way to procrastinate. It can have a relationship with trauma. Second question is, what are survival strategies for a child making a successful home? You are probably the scapegoat, and you know that your mother is, you are the enemy of your mother, she doesn't like you. There is nothing you will never do that will be pleasing to her. And you know that, you just know, how can you survive if you're still a child in that business? Then the last one is, how can you begin with the healing work in your family? Whether as an adult, you have a dysfunctional family, and you want to start healing the family. You know that there's a problem all of us are avoiding. We know, we just know, we don't want to talk about it. And you want to start. How can you begin that journey of healing your family?
I will give some answers and okay, so for the first one, we were saying is procrastination is
Trauma response.
trauma response. Procrastination on its own is a phenomenon, okay? It's something that can happen. I will not term it a trauma response, but I will explain something. If someone has experienced a traumatic event or a childhood adversity and has gone to the stage where even as an adult, the person comes down with, for example, a post-traumatic stress disorder, the person may exhibit certain characteristics. Like I said earlier, the person may act out, the person may be zoned out, there may be avoidance or numbing. And now when that occurs, usually what may follow it may be the act of procrastination. For example, somebody had a very ugly experience in an uncompleted building. Let me use that as an instance. And now going off, there's this post-traumatic stress disorder that the person has, that there's even avoidance of passing any uncompleted building. I'm just giving an instance. And now that person is in a job where he or she has to build or something is occurring that has to bring the person close to that experience, or even an uncompleted building. The person may act out in procrastination. So it may be an action, you understand, from an experience and not basically an experience. Then for the last question, I will throw a little light on that how can you be dysfunctional, how can you like salvage a dysfunctional, first of all, you have to be healed first. Because most times in a dysfunctional family setting, there is also dysfunctionality in the patient itself. So apart from the father and the mother and the brother and the sister, the person himself is something going. So first of all, the healing has to start with you. You understand? There needs to be a recognition, like Dr. Jack said, that when parents are having issues and all, first thing you have to break out, like you have to cut yourself out and be yourself, create a space of healing for yourself, and then you can dish out healing. So when you yourself, you're not healed fully and you're not ready to face this, healing cannot come true for the family.
Let me just respond to that because sometimes when we talk so much, we're not able to take away. Number one, procrastination can replace place. Everything is mental illness. Sometimes there's mental illness. When the job of the psychiatrist, when the person comes, want to say this is bad behavior or this and illness. Sometimes we do a very good job at that. Sometimes we just share this. Sometimes what you call procrastination will just be low energy of expression. Right? Low energy of expression. So our job is to differentiate between this laziness and this low energy of expression. Then number two, the mother is eating. Once you are an adult, get out of that house. You're not letting anybody keep them. Sometimes they call us psychiatrists and say we are wicked. This is what we call assertiveness training. That's why we oversee them. If they are old age, children not take care of them. When they are 16, 17, keep them out of the house. And that's the time the child needs the parent to use. So when the child finds his feet and the parents are home, don't care about them. Mr. Jack, my name is Dr. Jack. Mr. Jack, I think begged you and your wife to give it to me. As hard as it sounds. I just woke up one day and saw myself that the son of Mr. Jack. I don't know how to go through. So I don't know. So don't stress me, two of you long story and listening. The people are fighting each other, so business. If my mother is harassing me, when I get to the age of being a man, I walk out on them. As it's very harsh for me to preserve my mental health. When I'm an adult, I leave. If you're an adult, you're still in that environment, that means you've not grown. Get out of there. Face your life and square off and chest it and make a meaning for yourself. As long as it's legal. Then the third one was what? There's something called the Messianic complex. You're not Jesus Christ. Leave the family.
Exactly. Like I said, you say psychiatrists are wicked people because they give it to you like this. That is how it is. Now, we find narcissistic personality disorder or narcissistic abuse. It has to do with both male and female. A lot of times in this generation, we tend to tie narcissism to men alone, but we find women that are core narcissists. It's just that we know about women more, but it's in both genders. You have a narcissist for a mom or dad, they will gaslight you, they do so much to you. But like I said, the truth is, you need to leave that environment for your safety sake. You can't stay there. You can't stay there because it brings narcissism and narcissistic abuse brings you down in every form. Every form. Your self-esteem, your self-worth, because a narcissist will touch you down because they thrive in having control. And they will do anything to have that control over you, even if it means putting you down. So you leave them. That's going to be.
Okay, I get you the summary. For the person who asked about words, thank you very much. I will sometimes. So keep it on. Okay, so first, procrastination. Like the panelists are giving answers, but first one, Right? One of the or habitual procrastinators, okay, one of the reasons, apart from laziness and all that, some of them, it could be helpless as well because of their personality type. Okay? Take for instance, that is personality type that is obsessed with perfect. Alright? It's one of them. They care so much about perfect. If they walk into these chairs, first thing they see is checking their well alignment. You understand? They want to arrange each chair on the same level with each. If they come in and they see anything that is not right, they want to take it. But if you give them a task, they want to do the perfection. And when they spot an error, they are ready to abandon the work. Sometimes, because they try for more perfection, they find it difficult to start something. Because they feel exhausted, they feel they will not succeed, but they might not get it. In fact, there's something called paralysis of analysis or analysis paralysis. Okay? It's when you overthink something, you overthink it, then next you are doing it. Works. Okay? So even with that personality claim, it's called an narcissistic personality claim or obsessive compulsive personality claim. It tends to procrastinate a lot. Who have personality disorder in the cluster C, okay, who have a lot of avoidance, anxiety, kind of thing. They too, they tend to wonder consequences of their action a lot before they take the action. And many times, in the process of thinking, catastrophizing the consequences, they abandon the action and they do it. Okay? All right. Also, another thing is learning experiences. There's something called learning helplessness. Okay? All right. So, recurrent positive feedbacks, recurrent negative feedbacks, okay, can make someone not want to engage, don't want to do it. Okay. But if they mention that task, your heart begins to palpitate. So okay, let me give myself 1 week, let me just calm down. Let me calm. 1 week comes, say 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then a week to the program, say the pressure is too much, I will die. I'm not need to do. You will rather go on board the boat and then they take swallowing that face. All right, that's that. Then the other one you said how to heal a narcissistic or its functional growth. First of all, every healing has to begin with you. Have you healed yourself? Physicians say that if you have not healed, I don't see how you can heal it. So when you have properly healed yourself, you can now attempt to heal. If it doesn't work, my brother needs it. You cannot kill yourself. Or get a professional help for your home after you have saved yourself. All right? What's the other question you asked again? From narcissistic mother. Unfortunately, we don't talk to these parents in this story. Overseas, every little thing, you invite your story to and they'll come and ask your parents questions. Narcissism will show. And they will take steps. The government can even take you away from that family. Put you in it. You have your attention. Before they damage you irreparably. Okay? Yes. Or they compulsory do the court, confine the narcissistic to treatment. Okay? Remove the person. All right? So, unfortunately, as a country, we have eventually remained development. So, unfortunately, we now have engineers that you can run.
Students together for Dr. Wole.
Now the paper, whoever wrote this, I don't know what the problem is. You want to blind me or you have wonderful handwriting. I don't know why you're micromanaging the paper. So your question says you have someone who tends to forget things, especially things that are negative. You don't want to remember. Say your friend has a defense mechanism. that he has moved over and now he's on autopilot. So whatsoever will cause him stress, his subconscious mind quickly tells him this is implied for it. Yes, you, this one delete it. You can't delete it. It does not really have a name for the problem. Although he didn't tell me the age of the person. But if it's selectively from negative things, from negative things, then we have still a defense mechanism. Alright? Some of the defense mechanisms can be positive for the matter, adaptive. Alright? Why some will be maladaptive. I myself I tend to have one. It's called humor. Okay, I tend to humor a lot. Okay. In situations that naturally can stress. And it's one of the great defense mechanisms. So I just make everybody laugh. Okay, forget about that. And yeah, I feel all right. Thank you.
All right, so concerning that question of forgetfulness, person forgets only negatively. There's something called motivated forgetfulness. That is, you tell yourself, see anything negative, I will not remember. You will consciously tell yourself that it's fine. No, not autopilot. That's why I said the first mechanism. The first mechanism are subconscious, nothing to do autopilot without me. There's motivated forgetfulness. This one, as you just as my boss shouts at me, I have a very wonderful boss, it's a woman. I cannot be that. I tried it probably before. As she just does the as she's talking, I'll just be zone out. Besides, I kind telling myself, forget this one, forget this one, forget this one. So she's talking, when she keeps talking, I'm now talking, so what do we do next? I've forgotten what she said. Motivated for you, consciously tell yourself, I'm going to forget this matter.
Yes.
My first thing was one state, but I was not satisfied with the answer. I'll just myself an example. I'm coming from a global and I've been trying to do mental health. Got so bad that I don't want to support my health. How do you handle a father that's just like way more passionate against you? How? Just like your enemy gave birth to you. Doesn't provide for you financially, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, mentally, everything is zero. You grow up as a child, come into this world and see that person as a dad. And you are not even financially stable if he has. And you're not coming from a normal home or a normal family where you can go stay with your aunties or your uncles, nothing like that. And then you got at some point, you got setting up that your dad had to hang on. I'm trying to say this, but I don't want to call it out. Dad had to go around with some person and they kidnapped you, sexually abused and all of that. This is my story. How to handle that kind of father. And at the end of the day, some part of this still wants to have a father. Some part still wants to do something and she just said, well, how to handle that? I've been trying to do that. Then let's say, let's pray, the pastor, so how to handle that.
Okay, so now that's a very good one. Because see, me, I like the assertiveness wicked part where you exert yourself as an individual. The thing now is that likely you're most likely still dependent on that parent for financial reasons. That's the reason. In fact, most of our ladies, a lot of ladies get married at 20, 21, 22. It's the same reason. A man tends to buy a coffee, man, move straight. Keep that man. At 6 years, why the ladies are married? If a man comes to marry you, get out of the man to that man's house, see, I did not give birth, give birth to me. I was where I was enjoying myself, give birth to me. Who told you to give birth to me? Go, accept yourself. Accept yourself. The more you keep pushing, see, we are all human beings. We're not saying you should disrespect your parents, but there's an age of accountability, the age where you become an adult. Most of the patients you see, when people they psychoanalysis or go to the psychodynamic aspect of their life is that they have been stuck in that age of childhood where they had the trauma.
Yes.
So physically, age-wise, they have grown, but emotionally and mentally, they are failed to mature. cannot, that, you're living another person's life. When you start living your life, a part of you wants him as a father. If that part of you wants him as a father, go with that part and forget all the negative things. So go with that part that wants this man as a father. Then I want to know now if this thing is just a recent part, because if the man is getting old, he's most likely going to come for you, or he's old and everything. But if you want that part that says, okay, this man is my father, I want to go with that part. If your mind kicks out that part, again, you are already an adult. Develop yourself as an adult. That's why you zone out. You block yourself values. Nothing comes. See, you cannot just wake up now and just become a get it. You start to plan yourself and forge ahead and create a job where something, create money for yourself and go and make yourself independent. That's why what we're going through, or what you're going through is what we call colonialism. That's why Nigeria and other African countries broke out of the English rule. You have colonial master and become independent. What you need now is independence. We may not give the answer you think you want to hear, but I just tell you that part that loves you, go with that part or become independent. You cannot sit on the fence.
Add to that by saying this. What you said about being independent is the first thing. Now, you're not financially stable. And you keep asking yourself the question, where will I go? Because I will not have anybody. Now, because of the situations you have faced, and because of the traumas you have encountered, that should be a push for you. That should be your driving force. I do not want to remain here. I don't want to be here. That should push you to move and do something for yourself. Learn a skill. Develop yourself. You need to do something that will help you earn. Because the situation you find yourself can push you into different things. You can become a substance use. You can become addicted to substance or alcohol. It will drive you into depression. From the way you're talking and your expression, you're already there. You are battling it. Now you are moving into depressive stupor, and you are talking about suicidal. You want to end it. There's an undertone in this already. You need to live, yes, you love me, you want to modify me. That's the things about mostly your fathers. But right now, it is not helping you. There is no positivity there. Everything you said is negative. And there's nothing there that is, you're struggling already. You're struggling. And it is already suicidal thoughts are beginning to arise. You want to handle it, which is not healthy. That makes you are already depressed. You need to leave and seek professional help. Yes. Because you are already. Do you understand? What's your second question, please? So my point is, how do you hope it's going to look that you don't see anything but and maybe because we're in the office before they employ you, before you feel like you're the younger person, you're here before you run. They tend to report to us, and because we are there before you, because then listening to them, even without hearing you out. And even when you know you're doing your best, they are still wanting for you to do the job or to want people to study, and then you discover that you're not working on it. I was supposed to praise the Lord. Please, before the panelists answer the question, please supposed to be a safe space. The moment the laughter actually is very important. So allow anybody answer their question, allow the panelists to do the best they can do. And then, of course, talks will always continue from there. Just try not to mimic anybody's comments or make mockery of whatever they're presenting. Thank you.
Okay, so in addition to that, let's maintain an atmosphere of empathy. People are talking about pressing issues. So let's find, even if we don't have an answer, let's identify the actual problems. So, my dear, your challenges are quite big. Still, okay. However, I want to suggest the following. I think you need to see where in the mental health specialist. Many times we may conclude with self-help. They actually got a sort of the wrong places. It's mention prayers, talk to things, those people, they might have not seen the problem from one angle. Okay, so you need to see a professional mental health specialist. You need to see a clinical psychologist to sit down with you and counsel you. Okay, psychotherapy is one, not that freelance one. Okay, do cognitive restructuring for you, do all kinds of therapy for you, teach you coping skills, okay, teach you social skills, and everything, and uncover some things too that might be going on in your life that seems to corrupt the atmosphere around you. Because you mentioned things in the room, and you mentioned things at work. Okay, it's as if something is following you from the state world. Okay, and we may want to have to look inwards too in you to address some issues. Okay, so that because you see the rationale behind cognitive behavioral therapy simply means cognition, the way you think, affects the way you feel and how you behave. Okay? Yes. The way you think has a way of affecting how you feel and how you behave. So the therapy begins by changing how you think so that you can feel better and you behave better. Okay. Now, that said, all right, I will request you to do that. Yeah, finance may be an issue there. There are places, okay, where you can have access to these things almost for free. Okay? Yes. Some of those are practice in the church. They know some of those psychotherapists and doctors so that they can give you free consultations to them. You have to exploit the church properly. Are you with me? You have to explore, because they are exploring and exploiting. No, this is not bad or fine. I don't have anything. But the truth is that if you don't use the church will not stay. In fact, the church is sleeping. The church is sleeping. Yes. So you should use the church. Be purposeful and dedicated to use the church. That's how you benefit from the church. As it benefits from it. All right? So if you belong to a church, explore the health available. I attend the church school, and many times people see me there for free in the name of medical team in the church. I can't deal with it. And you get it. So we use that. Then you mentioned that you made some weighty allegations about your dad, how you went to court. Okay? That shows this is serious issue. What was the outcome of the court deliberations? They request that your dad have a signed paper. Now you were kidnapped. Did the court find you guilty? What steps were taken? And if you were not able to pursue this case to a logical conclusion, did you approach some bodies, legal bodies like the feeder and all the rest of the Yes, there are legal bodies that offer pro bono legal consultation and services. Did you explore them? Because if it's doing really all this, that needs to pay for this crime. Are you getting me? So that will also help remove the stressing factor from the environment. Or perhaps, how do you confine to it might be ill for person. Some who can do all this is might be mentally ill. And he's being left to run out. Of course, it damages self. We have people taking care because some of the people who interact with us, not us, are actually sick mentally. And by rights should be getting psychiatric care. But we tend not to identify this and we only respond to their behaviors and we let them be and they keep hurting one more person and hurting us. Okay. So these are angles that must be looked at concerning this issue. And then you, like Mrs. Onombe said, you have to work towards emancipation. Okay? Emancipation is the legal term of you freeing your to start an independent life. There are bodies too, even your church, the women forums, the church welfare committee. They can do something to ensure that you are rehabilitated somewhere, start a new life, and be independent. Okay? So there is help and you not exhausted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, before we continue, please, if you have any question, physical, please can you come forward so I can take them up, take the count. Please come forward because we're already running into time. If you have any question on the mic, please come forward so that we can take your questions. All right.
Dr. Thompson, we are not going to take questions after questions. If you have that serious question that will not
Please just
arise,
come forward,
that
please.
just come
Please come
and take my seat or stand up for you.
Thank you very much. So now we have, I have shared, so I have shared a couple of questions, related questions amongst our panelists, and then we'll be going back to Dr. Jack. After Dr. Jack, we'll take Dr. Rosemary and then Mrs. Stetson.
What is the best way to treat or eliminate any racism in adults, adult people, adults? I mean, when I was talking, I did mention of the 19-year-old who was related to my brother. That's the thing called mainly racist. It therefore means that it's either someone here dealing with this, or there's someone you know who deals with this. This is the treatment is not something we can discuss here. That is the honest truth. It's something that takes time. Because there's something called the operant condition in clinical psychology or physiology, where, for example, a dog wants to show you food, show food to the dog. Naturally, the dog salivates, right? Anytime you bring food, the dog salivates. Now it gets to the point where you now pair two stimuli together, or two stimuli together, where you bring food and ring the bell. You know that the food, naturally, the bell will not cause dog to salivate, right? The bell will not cause dog to salivate. But it gets to a point where, as much as you bring the food and you ring the bell, you pair the food and the bell together. The dog now gets to a point where subconsciously you know that whenever the bell is there, that food is by the side, so they will salivate. It now gets to a point where when you don't even bring food and ring the bell, the dog just starts salivating. That is what we use to treat any universities. In summary, what I'm trying to tell you here is that we cannot discuss the treatment of this thing here. You will come and see us here.
Exactly.
Do you understand? I hope I don't confuse you, please. This you can exhaust. It's not something that takes just only one session. We do multiple sessions before you get control over your blood and while you're sleeping.
I have a question here. When you mention historical events and their effects in children, in some way, the person asks, what does this mean? Because what you're writing here is not what it means. So, what I actually mean is that, okay, the last line here says, how does one end the effect of this historical events for children? First of all, the person who wrote this had a misconception on what I mean by historical events. As the name implies, from history, like for Nigeria, one historical event that happened is this October 10 incident, this event SARS,
Yes, it's
okay, that we still mark hearing and we mark this year. That's year it happened, like it was 2020 October 10, okay? Most of us, most people saw it as something that happened in Nigeria, but for some persons, it was quite personal. For me, it was a personal thing, okay? Historical event is one thing that could be an adversity, that is what I'm saying. In as much as we regard parental separation, negligence, divorce, historical event is also one thing. Because for some children or for some people that pass through that experience, it had a way of affecting them even as they grow. That's why it's still something that is marked even to now in Nigeria. So historical events, yes, it's been as one of the adversities that can happen in childhood and progress to having a traumatic experience or effect as an adult.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rosemary. Before we move to the next question, let us take one physical question.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, our panelists. So my question is, so you have an historical trauma, and then you probably left, you zoned out both physically and mentally, and then more mentally than physically actually. And now probably you're back physically, and now you're zoning out mentally. I just want to know, at what point because when you keep zoning out, avoiding the issue, behaving like, like said, but you're trying to heal and then maybe like, I'm not there, I'm not in this space. It becomes avoidance. The issue does not go away, you just avoid it. So what is the balance between facing these issues, not in terms of just meeting someone professionally now, but you as a person facing these people that probably caused the issue and then trying to find a common ground, a place you get, and then being your normal self, because people say you're not normal, not mentally now, but you're not you yet, because you're avoiding, you're sorting out, you're running away, but you can, how do you still stay around and be your normal self? Then my second one is not a question, it's just a contribution. Before I came here, I knew talking about mental health, and like, how do we get this topic to more people? And the solution I came up with on my name was that we should create an app where people just, like ChatGPT, as easy as that. Work on it, and from there you can now go to see people in the hospital. Because nobody wants to go to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to have to go to the hospital. That's the truth. So and ChatGPT these days acts more as a counselor. And it's like they to say what's going on and all of that. And now they're talking about Snapchat and they're out, but nobody knows this app. I don't know them. It might not feel long, like I should have at least heard of one of them, but no. So if we could collaborate better and get us the list of people that actually need them, then we do better.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll have you listen to the last question.
Talk about zoning out, right? Now, it depends on face jackets or one size fits all. Depends on the situation around them. And we also have to know that action or inaction can be as good as action. It's not every situation you take action. Now, for example, if there is stressor, it's my father or my mother, let's say you can start beating my father or shouting at my father. Doesn't make sense. I'm saying not really for as long as I'm there. Our African culture does not support you disrespecting your parents. Do you understand? Well, if it's my spouse or my child, I will not be inactive. I will do something about it. After my slides, I say something about clear thoughts. After thinking logically and clearly through the situation, I will find the best solution. But if it's my father or my mother, I will not come out and confront the person. If it will cause worse the situation, I can come and say that is out and talk. But to start raising my voice and shouting, to know what to worsen the situation. Then the situation is when it's my spouse, just see the person and allow the things. So it's case dependent. You cannot say I will antagonize everything. You may end up losing your marriage. You may end up losing your child. Do you understand? Your parents, you will end up losing their covering, whatever. So you think logically, you think clearly, which I'm very sure is I'm not trying to influence God or women are more emotional than logical. So in your emotions, you may just flash out of your father and you want it to go. So while in your emotions, think clearly, write out your thoughts and execute. You understand? It's not everything that goes with force, and it's not everything that requires inaction.
Let me add to what you said. Like you said, if it's your parents, you can't answer, but you could talk with them. It depends. I can talk to my mom, I can talk with my dad because I'm close to them. Depends on your relationship. If it is sibling pain, it's okay for you guys to have your fallout and you disagree to agree. You fall out in reconcile, talk about it. With your parents, you try as much because you cannot be disrespectful, you try to talk about it. Because sometimes keeping quiet does not help. Avoiding does not help. Sometimes you need to talk when to speak. Okay?
Okay. Before I answer this, she just mentioned that you have been zoning out and zoning out and zoning out. So what do you actually do? So, as the speakers have said, if you cannot have a good defense mechanism, you cannot suppress or repress that experience. And you cannot do, as Dr. Jack said, motivated for getting that experience. Then you have to actually do something. Now, what do you have to do? You have to seek expert counsel. You have to seek a therapist. There are so many things they can do, ranging from the cognitive behavioral therapy to trauma-focused therapy to cognitive reconstructive therapy. There are things because you cannot help yourself at this point, and that's why you've been zoning out and zoning out and zoning out. So you have to just sit down and then let the help come to you. Okay. Now I have a question here. I have a friend who frequently goes into groups, and in those months she isn't responsive to people and spontaneous symptoms out of it. How do I go about it? Everyone in his or her lifetime once in a while or have experienced dealing with. Nobody will say all through lifetime will be happy. But where there is an issue is that when you experience this low mood and it becomes persistent and it keeps occurring and is now affecting the person's life, causing impairments, causing distress, that is an issue. So for this friend, who frequently goes between low mood, it is an issue. Okay, there is already a mood issue because it is not one wild thing. Now, this is persistent low mood. Now, what the person, okay, they said that, and she's also unresponsive, so there are other things attached. The person actually needs to come for a proper follow-up, see a psychiatrist, so that they will identify if there are other things associated with the movement. Because anything may have caused that frequent movement. It could be from a mood issue, it could be a mental illness, it could be just anything. So a proper history has to be taken so that we know where the frequency mood is coming from. Is there a stressor? Is there something happening in the family or in the person's life? Is there a psychosocial stressor so that it can be identified? And then the psychologist swings into action and addresses those things. So that person, in some way, tell that person to come for the proper follow-up so that it will be addressed.
Okay, I have some questions with you again to the first one, this one said, the person said, how do you identify paranoia and or distrust in a relationship as either trouble? First and foremost, what is paranoia? You take something and you hold on to it and you believe it wholeheartedly, even if the thing does not exist, even if the thing is not real. You find an individual saying, there is a snake under that chair. I saw a snake. It is a snake. Everybody is saying there's no snake. The person is saying, see it, look. When you see a chair that is there is always a snake. You just hold on to it. It is not real. But the person is saying it is real because for that person, it is real. The person is paranoid. And it's a mental health issue. So if you're taking it in a relationship, a spouse holds something in a relationship that does not exist and is a constant thing. There is nothing like this, and the person is holding it, the person is paranoid. When someone holds something that does not exist, it is not true, the person believes it is true. The person is paranoid. Number two, you said, how do you tell the difference between having a valid reason not to trust your partner and just letting your insecurities create problems that aren't really there? When you say valid reason, as your partner giving you a valid reason not to trust them, how do you tell it's a valid reason? Valid reason. I caught my spouse with a woman in the room. I'm not talking about what they tell you outside. Like, I saw your husband. Oh, there's a story I was told that the man was in the house with his wife eating dinner, and her friend calls and said, hey, wow, how you doing? How are you doing? "Hmm, I'm not from telling you this one, but as a good friend, I just see your husband. He just they enter hotel with one woman. He is in the house eating with his wife. She's looking at me and she says, are you sure? I said, yes. I just see your husband. And she said, you sure say I'm your husband? I said, yes, I don't know your husband. Then she's looking at her husband, he's looking at her, and she was like, the man now said, you see me from hotel just now. She ended the door. That's why I said I'm not saying what they told you outside. Has he given you a valid reason? Concrete. This one is, I have proof. Concrete proof. It has been tested and tried, and you know that yes, it is true. That's the valid reason. Insecurity. What if that's a colleague? Why even something like colleague? That is your insecurity. That girl is very fine. There's no how you will not have been looking at that girl. No how that you will not like her. That is insecurity. That is not valid. So that's the difference between your valid and your insecurity. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I will take this question. I want you to make it fast. Okay? So that
Thank you, everyone. I'm actually surprised that I'm talking publicly because I think I have anxiety. Because when I was younger in church, we were asked a question. And the person that asked the question was like, that's a question of something. And I'm like, say it the way you think it. Say, if you don't know the right answer, just say it. So then he said, I know you said I want to say something, but then he said, and I said what I thought it was. And it made everybody laugh. And ever since then, to say something out of even when I want to, my leg is shaking, my head is, my whole body is, in fact, I will not even be able to say it. So I want to look like I'll be making conscious efforts to be able to speak about it, but then I want to know if there's any additional thing that I have to do to stop that anxiety.
You're speaking in public.
Yes, but I asked my neighbor, like, what do I do? She said, I can write it down. I was just writing it down. And I said, if I go there, what back, I want to go there.
You're making effort.
I'm making effort.
So all you need is the efforts you're making. And try to do it more often. You will bring out of it. If you have an opportunity to talk. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. I have another question, like a supplement to our class. So, if someone has an aged person who is suffering from loneliness, anxiety, sleep disorders, and post-traumatic disorders, and that person cannot be in community, you said the person should be in community. What if that person has a disability, maybe people or something like that, and this person cannot be in community? How can one help that person?
Okay, the family is the person's community, first and foremost. And the ages are the people at the first at high risk of loneliness and social isolation. Second set, the people that are marginalized, people with disability, people that are discriminated against. Now, if you're talking about those two sets, first and foremost, their social network is their family. Their family needs to be there. Now, if the spouse around or they lost their spouse, now, so loneliness, another type of loneliness born out of grief and loss. You know, first and foremost, family is the community. You also need to seek professional help for that person. Do you understand? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, we are attempting to answer this question. All right, for the person who was asking for an app, okay, and how to be doing lives or sound mind, you can look out for sound mind, sound mind, because it's for mental health education, it's good education to consultation. Then I'm looking at this question, stigmatization is not that cause someone to get hungry or that is the person gets hungry a few minutes after having a heavy meal every time. It's before I answer this question, and if the person who asks, don't stand up, I want to see your size. You need to sit small. Don't worry, sit down. Your body needs to be okay. So you may need a physical cause, but it's not a mental health issue. It could be that you have a lengthy tapeworm that runs from the end to that place. Worm is okay. All right, also your body telling you that you need to provide it. Some people are high metabolizers, others are low, meaning that their metabolic rate might be high. When they eat, their body can just fast, while some is slow. Okay? It does do that your body is needing something that you're not providing to handle it this kind of person. Okay? All right, so that's it.
PTSD to a particular event, person select, like, let's say, go through the same thing. But the one has panic attack, the other one doesn't. And this other person that doesn't have never had a panic attack related to myself. Or this black operator or trauma to Okay, my question is, PTSD to a particular event, person select. Like two persons go through a particular traumatic event. One has a panic attack, the other doesn't. And the other that does not have never had any test towards a traumatic event.
That question is very, like I'm always saying, there's no one size fits all, right? One of the greatest benefits of becoming a psychiatrist is that it helps me to think laterally. I will have one particular thing and 10 ways of handling that same thing will open up. So it depends on, I will use it this way, like the yes, or the resilient. If I use the hammer and keep one small hammer, keep it at a particular point in the wall, the first blow may not take down that wall. But constantly, maybe the 50th blow, 51st, 70th, 69th, 99th, and the 100th will just be responsible. I've been giving it since. So that individual who develops the PTSD at that point may have been going through a lot. In fact, because of the situation, that was just the last blow. And this other person is then dead, and he quoting all the scripture the pastors told them in church and what he did, that this one, God can kill that. That's, those scriptures was quoted just reinforce the resilience in the person, and that's just did not bring the person. But the person was like, when I don't care, this is not happening to happen. And the resilience just remain intact. See, so there's no one size fits all, and nobody knows who will develop what at any particular point in time.
I want to say something else. I wanted to say segmentation different persons, different things, but they might be not exposed to the same thing, the same traumatic event, but now different resources. Like I said, there are different things that different people, different coping mechanisms. Something might, or like there are different things that would make somebody to cope better. Space of stress. Okay? We have the genetic factor, we have presence or absence of support systems. So probably that person has a better coping mechanism, and that genetic whatever is not there, as well as he has a positive support system around him. So definitely that's the same better. That's true.
Whereas everybody the one that is I think it's like available. Okay, so my question is you find yourself in a family where it's like you're the odd one out, or maybe you feel like you're the black sheep, as the case is. Because they're wearing almost like not only from the wedding. Okay, so then I've been through therapy for twice. So I'm being real with myself. Like I know what my issue is. Now you can see the flaws in a number of your family members, and they sometimes tend to like put this behind them as if it's nothing. You know that you're not just who needs this type of money, they also have it. And then they make you feel like you're the odd one out. Or like watch them, Dr. And said that's lighting. Let's put it that way. How do you deal with this situation?
Okay. What situation do you want to do? Is how you feel or you want to save your family?
Save your family.
Thing is, close to so thing is, I sometimes feel a distance from them. Feel a bit distance from them. I've literally told them before that I want to feel close. So,
How old are you?
Range. Range.
Your mid-20s. Okay. First of all, have you said that you told them you don't like to do as a good friend, but also speak to them how their actions affect the doing the bad life. Okay, so you want to know like your mid-20s. To believe that because one of the first things you have to do for festival is to detach yourself from this person when it's person. As it appears, you are in your 20s, you're wearing your fine clothes, all of this things get bought it for you, but you paid for you. So you should get yourself something to live home, relate with them from a distance, so you can keep your sanity. Why they continue gaslighting themselves into when they are tired to listen to your doctor psychologist.
All right, so this, your question to, I think you're welcome to the wedding. Your question to let me respond. I know the question, but let me just respond to you. Let me respond. No, don't worry. I want to answer through more lines. I had this particular patient who, every time he comes, his mom is wicked, his dad, his siblings. He went to NYC and stuff, but everybody in the house was bad. All of a sudden, I became a bad doctor too. So at that point, I had to sit down with him and told him to do some form of introspection. What introspection is? Where you look inwards and find out, is there anything, not like everybody else, your house cannot be a bad person. Why is everybody antagonizing you? Is there anything? And you have to be very sincere. Is there anything that you're doing that's making everybody? And I spoke with him. My boss did the same time. We put him in a very tight corner and told him to introspect. And yesterday he came to play with the mom. And the mom said for the first time in 4 years, the bad person died. he has lost the form of introspection. So in addition to leaving the house, which means that is my, that's my militant leave. But if you don't introspect, by the time you get married, your wife will be likely to become a bad person. Your children will become bad people. So you project it on them. You transfer what's happening in your biological family to your marital family. So do some form of it. You don't need therapist for that. Sit down and introspect so that you find out if it's with you or not. Do you understand? It's not every time you have other people that must speak for your problem. Sometimes we will be our own problems.
I have a question here. She said, someone claims to love you, he or she. Someone claims to love you, but keeps saying words that are not encouraging. And when you try to talk, you are termed harsh. After saying words and called off the relationship with hurtful words, we come back after saying, I am changed. I am changed person. What I'm done. Because I'm sorry for laughing, but we talked about narcissistic abuse, right? Now there's a term called love bombing. Now they treat you like trash. Go get their hide somewhere else, come back, love bomb you so much to bring you back in. Now, to him, they've changed, oh, yes, changed, like, let me give it on. Another chance, it will work this way. After love bombing you and bringing you back in, everything returns to status quo, and you are like, it will not change. Just wanting to bring you back. Love you. There is, I love you, and you're doing something wrong. I want to tell you. I'll tell you in a positive way. I'll tell you in a way that will not bring down your self-esteem and your self-worth. If I make you question yourself, I make you feel like you're not good enough. If I make you feel like you're not worth it, I just a try for you. Then the minute you say this thing you did to me, I don't like it. I'm like, I gotta pick up that without taking accountability for my actions. That's not love. That's not love. So there's no love in between.
Yes. So I have two questions today. The first one is, how can someone adjust to the social life after social isolation? How can someone adjust to the social life after social isolation for extended period of time?
Okay, if you remember what I said you need to be in social media. Where are you? What are you doing? Probably you moved, relocated, not where family is anymore, or you have siblings that are married, everybody at home. Now you find yourself alone. You need to feel related. If you start with your church, you start with your brethren, join the group, the church, don't just be like that. You say, join the band. And three, join something. You will with tech, join the technology, the tech, and all that. Those are ways you could view yourself. You're in a place or in an organization, you have no more volunteering jobs to do volunteer. It will help you build a letter for yourself. Yeah?
So second question, how do I manage like this? So if the practice is already. How do you manage like the paranoid sense?
As a paranoid city. Wait.
One day, once, then use voice. The guy came for was catching me into moving and stuff like that. I'm not making fun of it. When this one take home installations or long acting injections, trying to take one separate and goes back.
keep encouraging you to take it to job, come to the hospital for football. It's good. I think so otherwise, let me ask, because you used to be a paramedic, if this is a baby, how do you know when the person has paramedic baby?
So this is the problem here. Started a long time
No,
ago.
as person got to be, as person being diagnosed, right? Then you can't say paramedic is a baby. You can't, because it's a baby, it's a very serious illness. Even we as parents physicians, it's not something we try not to relate to that diagnosis. Right? However, if what it is, if it is what it is, do what the doctor said. Someone who parents schizophrenia can kill everybody in the house. Buying, what they call buying the casting, buying to the person. You should get strong men, enter to the person's room. Buying to the person, carry the person, make the person into the person. Do you understand? That's the solution. Don't stay with the person a lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Obara Princess. I'm a real estate consultant. I help you build and sustain wealth. And I have a question. I have two questions actually. How can someone like me, who's a real estate consultant, I value my space because like I'm an only child and how can I succeed in things career without feeling overwhelmed or disconnected? Especially when I tend to procrastinate on plans, like following the prospect, not because I'm lazy, but because like it's actually draining, following up with prospects.
Okay, like you said, you are an only child. So there is no sibling like relating with you, all the attention, all the love, everything. Now, you need to change this first. Your interview is the damage. You need people. You have to meet people on a daily basis. You have to relate. You have to communicate. You like your space, but you cannot make money except you are doing a remote job in your space. But if your job has to do with communication, you are relating with other people, you need to work here. Do you understand? This is not home. This is you trying to build a life and a career for yourself. You need to come out from your box. Think outside the box. Be outside that wall that you put around yourself, that wall that you had in your family as an only child. You need to come out of it. Do you understand?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your first question. Get a personal assistant. Not very sorry. Get a personal assistant to help you schedule your events. And so go for a leadership training course that teaches you to be a boss and delegate things. So learn the art of delegation. Get one or two assistants who will handle this, learn that, and give you reports. And you just continue on to another line or that's it. That kind of thing. It's not a bad thing. Just get an assistant.
Second question. Okay. My second question is, I'm asking this because you just mentioned paranoia. I think someone did. And, I tend to see myself get hit by a vehicle every time I cross the road. I don't know why. Sometimes I pray over everybody. I just, I tend to see myself being hit by a image that yeah, if my car hits my soul.
Okay, let me ask you the question. Can you remember, have you been in the place where an accident occurred, or were you told a story maybe by your parents as a young child that, oh, an accident or something? Have you been in that kind of situation? You've never been in that kind of situation. And you have obsessive. It happens every time. Obsessive or compulsive disorder. You are always thinking about it like that. Yeah.
But when you have that image in your mind, it keeps intruding to your mind, right?
Yes.
Because when you have something about crossing,
Yes.
it just comes to its own, you force it out. What do you do to force it out of your mind?
Sometimes I'm like, wow, that's that. And the funny thing is, I watch across the road like I'm scared. I can't look like I own my
Okay, but that stuff keeps in. Okay, now when I was giving my, I don't know if you were around, I talked about distress and dysfunction. Is this causing distress?
It's just making me worry because why am I having such thoughts?
Okay, but do you function in a place of work and being a
Why function in a
place of work and can you first say
Like she said, she crosses the road like
don't worry, it's just to be in the morning.
not passing your business. Maybe you will go for a session. Okay, there.
My name is Crystal. Right now. I'm sorry because I want to direct my question to you. Because you said about the community, the intake of the coffee, the community was released, and it made you to take more and more. And I don't know whether you were addicted to coffee at that point.
So
that's why I'm asking the question to you. So now, with the community intake, I learned that it can be gotten from this substance or behavior, it can be being released to the system. And there is receptors. So really, my question is, how do you really work to get to addiction?
how does it work?
It's a bit. When it gets
So what you just wanted to do now is to take you through the entire 400. Yeah, but let me break it down for you. Now, dopamine is not something we take in actually, but it's a chemical in the brain. It's released. It's released during pleasure, right? It's released. Now, please let's listen carefully. Everybody, she has touched a very sensitive issue. Now, that's why you hear the word dope. He's on dope. There are things that release dopamine in large quantities. And dopamine is responsible for addiction. Now, addiction is not just only substance. Addiction can be behavioral, like internet, being on the internet, pornography, gaming, sex addiction, game and many things. Those are behavioral addiction. And they are value addiction as much as what you call substance addiction, right? So I have a patient who was raped during a robbery incident in her house, and after that, she just wants to have sex. She can live an Islam or not have sex. Right? Now, sex. Well, we don't say that. It's not and I see one of us are functioning well. Now, sex, a very good meal increases dopamine to about 200 micrograms, right? Nanomoles of that micrograms, very good meal, that's a lot of this food. Then an orgasm increases dopamine to about 300, that's the spike in dopamine during an orgasm spike. But you see, something like cocaine increases dopamine levels to about 2,500. Impulse was called ice, crystal and increases to about 3,000. Right? A sharp spike. So that dopamine, so that pleasure person feels at that time. The brain wants to sustain that kind of pleasure. I don't know if you understand. The brain wants to sustain that kind of pleasure. So the brain starts seeking out means to sustain that. And that is the reason for addiction. Because the person is seeking out that particular kind of pleasure. So what we do is to block the brain, to use certain things, my colleague said, we use medications and the rest, and also talk therapy to block the receptors from the effect from that dopamine. Now, the issue I had personally was that I was stressed with my thesis, trying to do my thesis. So I was taking coffee to stay awake more. Now, also, coffee, like other stuff, caffeine, can also cause a spike in dopamine, right? So I had to ask my colleague, who was a clinical psychologist, and she said exercise also increases the dopamine level. That's why most times after exercise, you feel very good. So I started doing it. This morning, before I came, I did a lot of exercise. And I'm not taking coffee today. Right? So if you want to know that I'm addicted or not, I'm not telling you. But what I know is that today I'm not taking coffee. Before I don't even take coffee again to sleep. You don't take coffee to stay awake. So they can read. Don't take coffee to stay awake. I think of it as function. It's different from what it's done. But I think I'm here, I'm functioning. I'm not sweating, I'm not having all the signs of coffee withdrawal. I did take coffee yesterday. So that greatly reduced. So when people who have addiction problems, whether behavioral or substance problem, when they come, they give them, we individualize the treatment with that particular person. And we work with the person. But the problem is, once they start coming and tell the friend, I'm seeing this psychiatrist, oh, nothing bad, the person withdraws. Or they go to the church, say, God forbid, those devilish people. And the pastor discourages the person withdraws. Or they go on, so before you enter, the person breaks therapy. To have a successful therapy session, it goes to about 16 to 20 sessions, weekly or weekly basis. And by the time you go through it, I have a man who will wake up in the night and he will sit down by his swimming pool and he'll be thinking of death. By the time I went through the diagnosis, that's what they call mixed anxiety and depressive disorder. And I told him, you do this therapy. And we did 20 sessions, what it is, for 20 weeks. Because I can't remember the last time he told me. He's living his life. Next time I called him, he said he's living his life. It's fine. He never knew. He was taking anti-malaria every week. One tablet, because he may not take one tablet. He will go to this hospital, tell this, will run away from the hospital. He will go to this hospital, see a doctor, he saw there, so he will run away from there because he did not understand himself. So therapy is very important. Not just 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It's scientific, like what you say. It's very scientific. And maybe someone has 1 or 2 things to say about it.
Simply put, anything you do that you enjoy will lead to learning. That's the reason that you enjoy. And if you do it repeatedly, that's kind of the main level. Makes the body feel like all the good is to enjoy. Okay? And at some point, your brain begins to affect the way of functioning under such a such that if it depends level of comes to the world, makes them feel as if you are not all inside. So that one is to understand is going to say dopamine is the reward hormone, sorry, neurotransmitter. Okay? It rewards things. Okay? And when you keep rewarding yourself so much, it makes that behavior to repeat itself. That is addiction. Okay? So it could be anything. It could be seeing money and counting. That you feel so good, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good. And every time you don't count money, you start feeling as if somebody died. And you get it is the fact that the kept counting of everyone kept on giving you that dopamine makes you feel good. And at some point, your brain began to perceive it that actually the new normal. When you didn't see money because you feel you changed the money, you now started feeling withdrawal. That's something is wrong. Alright? That's our addiction. So everything must be done with moderation. But even something good can be overdone and then put you in trouble if you begin to need okay?
Okay, let me just say this. We're talking about addiction, we're talking about it's about. Yeah. When dopamine is released for the first time, you see, for people that need job and alcohol, you see that first and person too, and person got that and everything became and the person was seeing the world in slow motion, and the person was feeling good. The person ran away from reality at that point. Now, at that point, the brain sees that, oh, there's excess dopamine. The brain feels like, oh, no, this is too much, it's not good for the body. It begins to delete some of its receptors, delete it. That's why you find somebody will tell you that, you see that high, when I reach the first time when I take her, I never get that high again. Now the person, in order to strive to get that high, the person begins to take more and more and more. And every time you take more, you develop tolerance. You never used to drink one shot of alcohol, you sleep. You get to a point where one shot, what do you do? Two. You enter one can. From one can, two. Three. Because your body keeps developing tolerance until you enter one carton. Two cartons, you keep going. Now you have moved from your experiment stage, you enter risky stage. From risky stage, now you don't even send, you don't enter addiction. That's how addiction comes about. Because now you're striving to get that high you got at the first point. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a way that Sorry for us going to do very practical. Thank you very much for your very thank you, Mrs. Brown, and thank you, Dr. John. One. Because of rights and education, please one more time. Wow. And again, I think you want to take some time and introspect on every single thing that has been said. And fortunately, we have come to the end of today's conference. Please join us a bit one more time, the convener of Sane Conference.
Good afternoon once again. Please, if you learn something, just do woo. Thank you. We are wrapping up. But before I take my closing charge, I have some persons here I want to recognize. Persons from Nigerian Correctional Services. Persons, please just, let's go your around. Thank you. Lion Store. Thank you. Alam Agri Nigeria. Thank you. Help me. I hope I'm not missing out on any of this section. Thank you so much for honoring our invite. We don't take it lightly. And on behalf of Sane Conference, I'm saying happy birthday to everyone that their birthday is today. And lots of persons have birthday today, and some of my volunteers had some days back. So happy birthday, everybody that their birthday is today, and then persons that had. So we'll give 2 minutes to a representative from Olam Agri. I'm actually giving them that because they brought gifts for us. So please, Mrs. Stella, you have 2 minutes to just tell us about. Oh, it's not you. It's you, right? To tell us about Olam Agri. They brought gifts for us, so they have to tell us the gifts they brought for us. Thank you. 2 minutes, please. Standing here.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a wonderful Saturday for me. I don't know about you. I've learned a lot. 2 minutes. Okay, the first 5 seconds, we came with some gifts. Please, as the gift goes around and you don't like it, just take it home and share with somebody. And somebody will be happy to say thank you. That will be the message. Then, the rest of the seconds, I just want to thank every facilitator today for this wonderful message you have passed to us. Please, someone said here, can you put it on social media? Then finally, the word prayer has been so much abused that people play with it and then make mess of it. I would like to stand here by virtue of being a minister to say that prayer is very good and prayer is not to be abused. One of the facilitators said moderation is key. Everything in moderation. There's something, prayer does everything. Yes, believe it. But also, when it's time for you to meet a doctor, please do not hesitate to meet a doctor because you need it. Prayer is good because when you pray, it will help you first to give direction. The doctor to meet, the person to meet, where to go, and all that. Finally, doctors, please help us. You know, things have changed. It has gone a time where you handle everything. It is now a time of collaboration. When a patient comes and you know it's something that you cannot handle, please feel free and be bold to say, sorry, I will refer you and will not be able to handle your case. Don't start what you can't finish and then don't stop it for someone. God bless you.
Okay, so on that one, Nigeria came to cause trouble for us. When we started, I actually wrote for you. I read out a lot for you. I don't know if you took notes on things I read, but I'm going to give you my closing speech before I hand over to the compared to you. And then please don't be in a hurry because we're going to have good photographs and all of that. And don't forget to talk about Sane Conference and support Sane Conference. So finally, as we are wearing our shoes and packing our bags to leave, as we draw this incredible gathering to a close, let me say this. Today was not end here. The real conference begins when you walk out of those doors, when you return to your homes, your offices, your schools, your places of worship. That is where calm must come alive. Are we on the same page? I hope we don't go and forget our theme and why we gathered here. And so finally, carry calm into your conversations. Let your presence stand anxious hearts. Let your leadership model calm strength. Let your family experience the peace that comes from your proactive care. Be the calm voice in rooms full of noise. Be the calm leader in environments full of stress. Be the calm healer in communities hurting in silence. We are shifting mental health from crisis to culture, and it starts with you. It starts today, it starts now. So as you lead, go with this challenge. Choose calm, create calm, champion calm, and together, let's build a world where mental health is everyone's business, and calm is our new number. Mr. Jess,
All right. So I said I'm going to sing two songs. We're not here for the first song. We're here for the second song. So can we all rise? Can we all rise? And please hold the hand of your neighbor. Please hold the hand of your neighbor. If you know the song, please sing along. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pains. We all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always to. Everyone go! When you're strong, I'll be your friend. I'll have you we won't be wrong. Somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on. You can God like you feel that. We all need somebody to lean on. Sane Conference 2025. Sane Conference 2025. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I hope you had a wonderful experience. So please come go ahead outside as we take a good photographs. Thank you very much. Okay, take care. All right. So can we have all the panelists first? All the panelists.
I'm started. I'm started.
You can all the panelists first. I think you can always see